Round 30 of the Nations Cup in the North America region is underway. Here comes McMillan on the inside. Andrew Brooks, he dominates. We are racing. But Warren lost the position off the start, getting through the first turn. There was definitely contact there. A little bit wide there for Coque Lopez. That's going to throw him off line. Valerio Gallo win round 30. Wow, look up deep.
He's made a mistake coming out of the right-hander.
Dylan Lindgren wins.
Hello and welcome to the FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships, coming to you from London with the Americas Regional Finals today. So we are hot off all of the excitement from the EMEA. We had top eight drivers moving forward to the Grand Final, and at the end of today, we will have 4 more going to join them. Here on our grid wall, you can see all of our drivers who are going to be competing today, because we thought, as we aren't going to be able to see them face to face, it'd be kind of nice to sort of like have a bit of a visual representation of them and bring everybody together a little bit. Another 2 gentlemen who are terribly excited about everything that's about to happen today as well are Tom and Jimmy, who are joining me now. Hello, Tom and Jimmy.
Hello, Julia. That's a very nice throw to us. Lovely, isn't it?
She's nice, Julia, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
Don't be suspicious.
Well, she could be all right at times, Goodness me. Well, it's good to be here. Good to be back for the Americas Regional Final as well. Jimmy, EMEA last week was pretty explosive. I mean, if we look back to it, we saw Baptiste Beauvoir, Valerio Gallo going toe-to-toe for the majority of it, and then going into the final races when it all kicked off.
I mean, what do you expect from that region? It's always been hyper competitive. And in case you missed it, we put together a little highlight package for you so you can get back up to speed.
We're racing for the EMEA Regional Final at Lago Maggiore. Side by side they come through the first corner. Kevlin's going to try and hold it around the outside, runs off onto the grass, bit wide there. Valerio Gallo takes the win. Race 2 for the EMEA Regional Final. And look at the charge on that Audi R18. For the EMEA region here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Oh, he spun! Beauvoir spun his round!
They're running side by side. Serrano's not going to take that line down. Flajan squeezes him into the braking zone. Big drama in the final corner. And he comes over the line here at Spa-Francorchamps to become the EMEA Regional Final champion.
Let's take a look at the race schedule for today. Race number 1, Group 3 Interlagos. We head to Brazil for race number 1. And race number 2. Really interesting combination, this one. And it's always proved to be a great race whenever I've seen it. Group B, the rally cars at Laguna Seca. There it is. Always going to be an interesting one. And then finally, we finish off in the Red Bull X2019 competition, as we did before. And this time, we head to the very tricky Sardinia A circuit. So that's a quick look at the tracks for today. Back to Tom and Jimmy.
Yeah, cheers, Steve-O, mate. Well, we'd like to keep our drivers on their toes, don't we? I mean, you see the track and circuit combinations and the car combinations. I mean, there's anything you can shake a stick at. Group 3 cars, Group B, X2019s. What more could you want?
I always think the race organisers just sit there and go, what can we do this time? And this time it was like Group B back at the Laguna Seca, which last time we had it there was just fantastic.
I'm still waiting for Fiat 500s on the rally circuit.
You're waiting a long time, I think.
Goodness me. Let's take a look, shall we, at the competition format that's going to be taking place here for the Americas region. Then you can see we've got 16 drivers per region for our regional finals in EMEA, Americas, and the Asia and Oceania. Drivers will accumulate points in all 3 races here today. Race 1 and 2, you get 12 points for the win, 10 points, and so on and so forth. The grand final, as you can see, is double points as well, so that can really shake things up, as it did in the EMEA region last week. You can see the top 8 drivers went through from EMEA, top 4 from Americas, and the top 3 will go through next week from the Asia-Oceania region. Very much looking forward to seeing how these drivers will get on, because unlike with the EMEA region, very, very few drivers will get through, will make the cut.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely all to play for here. Now, we've had a full season so far of superstar racing, 3 stages, in fact, with our top 16 superstars, but we've also had an extra stage for our time trial specialists with 4 more places through to these regional finals. So interesting to have those guys here too. Same story as before, easy to do it on your own, maybe a bit more difficult with others around you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not so easy, is it? And well, we know we've got a lot of drivers here who are ready to try and take the fight to the front of the order. Julia, who do you think the drivers are to watch though here for this Americas region?
Well, yes, we do have a plethora to pick from for you there. I'd like to just sort of highlight new drivers who will be ones to watch, throw them into the mix. So first of all, we've got Juan Hernandez, who's from Guatemala. That's one to watch. And we also have Robert Heck, who's from USA. We also have Randall Hayward, who you might remember from Sydney, who actually won the Manufacturer Series there for BMW, along with Rubilar and Lopez, who are names that you will know. Then we have Engel Inestrosa, who's Chilean. He actually won the World Tour in Tokyo for Porsche in the Manufacturer Series, so definitely one to watch there. And then, of course, there's Andrew Brooks, which is, a name that has been involved in the World Tour for a very, very long time, but always seems to have kind of terrible luck when it comes to the crunch. So hopefully, this time round, his luck will hold out and he'll be able to prove, the skill that he has on the track. Tom had a chance to catch up with him just a few moments ago.
So we're here with Andrew Brooks then. Andrew, great to have you along here. So let's get straight into it, shall we? And talk about, first of all, that hair. Is that a lockdown thing? Where's this come from?
I called out the lockdown, so I was just thinking of an excuse to sort of let it grow and not have to worry about cutting it, and I think the perfect opportunity came along.
You, of course, have dominated the online season in the Americas as well. You've been top of North America, of Central South America. You must be pretty high on confidence going into these events.
When you have expectations too high, you may believe that you've already reached a point where you're going as fast as possible, but in reality, you want to keep pushing and watching what your opponents are doing, because there's someone out there, regardless of how many people it is, that's going to be going quicker, and you always just have to be pushing to try and reach that next point.
How does it compare being at home in an environment where you're comfortable with, you haven't got TV cameras and Julia Hardy shoving a microphone in your face every 5 seconds asking you questions, compared to being sat on your sim rig at home for these events? How do you prepare differently?
I'll run maybe qualifying laps for an hour or however long it might take to get to the pace I want. I'll try to spice a little bit of fun into it though, because I feel like if you try to just do it monotonously on your own, you'll get bored really quick. You lose motivation. So honestly, a lot of the time I'll have close friends on my mic, on my headset, party chat, and they'll be yelling at me, joking around. I think if you just take it 100% serious all the time, then you're going to get more stressed out than you have to be.
Do you think the nerves are going to be the same as when you're at one of these World Tour events?
I think it's going to be there just in the comfort of our own home. I think one of the things that is going to be different is obviously there's not going to be as much stimuli around, not as many, no people, I guess.
Unless you've got a really supportive family.
Oh yeah, if they're standing right here. I mean, there's not much I can do to control that, but you're still going to be surrounded by the fastest people in the entire region, irrespective of the fact that you're not going to have hundreds of people there. But it's going to be very similar conditions to how we qualified. So I think it'll be sort of a mix between an online series race and a world tour is what the feel I'm expecting from it.
And combining the two regions, of course, is something we haven't actually done for a really long time in GT with Central and South America and North America. Is there anybody in Central and South America you've sort of looked at the sheets and thought, oh, hang on a minute, they could be a big threat?
Honestly, probably almost their whole roster. The entire Central South America region is extremely strong.
Good stuff. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. Wishing you all the very best of luck in the Americas Regional Finals, and great to chat to you.
Yeah, and stay safe, and hopefully we'll get to see you in person again at some point. And take care.
Good stuff. Thanks very much there, Andrew. Revs are rising of the Nations Cup in the North America region. We go side by side as we come down in towards the left-hander. It's a run to the line for second, and surely Hayward just by the smallest of margins.
It was all heck of he gets forced out wide, loses 2 places there.
Here comes Danny Solis down the inside of Marpinel into the right-hander there. That's going to be Bray. Aston Martin versus Aston Martin. Solis is going to try and haul it around the outside and makes it stick.
There you go. Oh, goes a little bit sideways, and then a little bit of contact. Heck goes back
through the trio of cars as we go 3 wide into turn 1. Benel versus Pounder side by side contact, and Benel into the wall. They could lose a lot more time, and now he's trying to attract Tristan Bayliss. Bayliss going defensive, Heck going late on the brakes though, sends it round the outside. Andrew Brooks, he dominates round 30 to win the Nations Cup in the North America region.
So that was the highlights for the top 16 superstars for the North America region, so our friends over in the US and Canada. But this regional final is about the entirety of the American continent, so we also have the Central and South American. Now, Tom has got our good friend Lucas Ordonez on the line to tell us a little bit more about what we can expect from the rest of the Americas region.
So I'm here with Lucas Ordonez, one of our Spanish commentators, and Lucas, over here in Britain, we were asleep at the time the racing was happening, and you know, our Spanish is probably not as good as yours to commentate on it anyway. So what happened in the Central and South America region?
Well, Tom, it was an incredible season in Central South America region. The fight between Bonelli and Inostroza was the highlight of the year for me. In Nations Cup and Manufacturer Series, Bonelli was really on the top, fighting against Inostroza in every race. But also other drivers like Hernandez driving for Nissan. It was really exciting. I think that region is pure passion, like pure emotional. When they drive in, they go for it. They launch. They try to dive bomb in every corner. So yeah, it's a very aggressive region in terms of overtaking and maneuvers, but really exciting to watch.
Do you think that the drivers from Central and South America have what it takes to take it to the drivers from North America's regions also? Well,
it's gonna be really tight. There's there's not many places to join the world finals for the American region. So yeah, it's gonna be tight. But as I said, Central South America region, the level has increased massively, and I think they are ready to fight with North America. It's gonna be fantastic to watch as a commentator, but I think Inostroza, Bonelli, Rubilar, they're gonna be really fighting with Fraga to join and to beat the North Americans.
Good stuff. Well, Lucas, thank you very much indeed for your time. Always a pleasure to catch up with you, mate. Hope you enjoy the coverage, and we hope that some of the drivers from Central and South America will be putting in some good performances in the Americas finals.
I'm sure they will, and hope to see you soon, guys.
Okay, so let's take a look at a comparison between the Central and South American region and the North American region. Let's take a look at some stats. I found these rather interesting, actually. So they've both got a very similar amount of drivers. Of course, today we have 8 apiece. But then Lucas Bonelli, the most successful in the Central and South American region, not by percentage, because that goes to Adriano Carrazza. Quite interestingly, we've got Jeffrey Gallan there on the North American side, with the most amount of wins and the highest percentage, but he isn't present today. It's going to be very interesting to see which of the North American drivers stands up to the plate and becomes their de facto #1 driver. But someone who isn't present on that list, Mr. Igor Fraga, of course, 2018 Nations Cup champion. And Jimmy caught up with Igor Fraga and managed to get a good driver coaching session with him to learn how to drive the Interlagos circuit rather quickly.
You're a very calm instructor, Igor. When we had Baptiste doing this, he was very angry at me all the time. He kept shouting at me. I think he was quite angry that I wasn't very good. So I'm joined by 2018 Nations Cup champ, Igor Fraga. Igor, great to see you, mate.
Great to see you, Jimmy. Thank you very much for the invite as well.
Let's say you're an instructor. You're sitting next to me virtually right now. You've got to make me go fast.
Yeah, the first corner is basically breaking point around 50 meters. For that corner, like you did previous, you went a bit wide with the 2 inner wheels on the grass. Yeah.
Look at that, brother.
You can be more aggressive on the brake there as well.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a shame.
No! This is the proper entry, Igor. Look at this. Look at this. See that?
Oh, it looks good, but for the time, it's a bit slow, let's say. Okay. There is a lot of corners connected, so if you missed one, it gets worse for the second one, and you ended up losing more than a 10.
If you had to give one tip to someone to how to get faster around Interlagos, what would it be?
You have to make sure that your braking point is right, because then I think the rest of the corner will just come more naturally. So if you enter in the correct way, you can point the car towards the exits. Then, of course, it makes much easier when you go on power.
Well, Igor, thank you so much for that, mate. And hope you guys enjoyed the lesson from our 2018 Nations Cup champ, Igor Fraga.
Thank you, guys.
Well, good to see Jimmy Broadbent there getting to learn the right way around the Interlagos circuit. We now cut over to qualifying for the first race in the Americas region then. Igor Fraga just winding himself up for a hot lap here at the Autodromo de Interlagos. So coming down to the first corner, this of course is a super pole session. So he only has the one flying lap here, Jimmy, and he's going to be trying to take all that knowledge, that local knowledge he knows around of this circuit to get himself as good a lap time as he possibly can.
Yeah, of course, as a lot of us know, he has driven around here quite a few times in real life, has the Igor, so he has Nico Rubelar to beat at the moment on a 1:30.923, narrowly beating out Andrew Brooks, currently of course one of our sort of top picks for this region. Kevin Pounder, of course, also looking to set a decent lap in that Jaguar F-Type coming out of Yonkar now up the hill. As Steve said earlier on, a completely critical corner for your lap around this circuit. You get that corner wrong, you lose time all the way up the hill. Kevin's seemed quite neat and tidy out there though, so we'll see how this time compares. Looks to be a little bit off pace though.
Over the timing line he comes, 8th quickest then for Kevin Pounder, so that is the second slowest of the drivers who set a lap time. What about Fabian Portilla? About to come over the timing line in the Ford GT. It's a 1:30.9 to beat. He's going to be a bit slower than that. He only goes 8th fastest here for Fabian, so not a great lap for the Chilean driver. Tristan Bayliss, driver who we got quite familiar with given our World Tour events last year, was very competitive with Porsche. He's now in the Mercedes. He's now coming over the line and he goes 7th fastest.
You see how they'll dive to the left there, right at the end, to take the line of least resistance, the shortest line to the start-finish line. Bernie Valverde, our Costa Rican touring car driver, if you like to call him here. And unfortunately, that real-life experience not paying off slowest so far. Igor Fraga currently down on Nico Rubelar, 2/10 off the pace in the Mazda Atenza Group 3, comes across the start-finish line, only good enough for 7th. He won't be happy with that.
He was saying he was a bit rusty before the start of this one, and that proved to be the case. What about Juan Hernandez then? So he's from Ecuador. He's one of our new drivers, and he's over the line. It's not a good lap time, though, for him in the Nissan GTR. Only 14th fastest there for Juan. So needs to do a bit more work behind the wheel of that machine. Nick McMillan, 15th fastest for him. Again, not a good lap time there. So these drivers really struggling. It's only Mark Pinnell, the Canadian, who's got his lap time to set. He's 0.6 of a second adrift, though. And given how close the field is here, it's not going to be anything to write home about. Only 14th fastest. So Nicolas Rubelar then takes pole position ahead of the first race. Andrew Brooks will line up alongside him on the front row. Angelo Nostroza and Luca Bonelli will be on the second row of the grid. So an exciting session there. Lots of unpredictable times, with Igor especially being quite far down the order.
Tell you what, Angelo Nostroza is probably the driver that I'm most impressed with there. He's fairly quick on his day, but not usually in the single competition. He tends to be a lot better in the manufacturer series. But 3rd place around here in what is quite a competitive field, only being a little bit off for Nico Rubelar. I mean, that's a fantastic result for him. But of course, the big story for us is Igor, 7th place. That's really going to be upset with that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, race 1 is about to get underway very, very shortly indeed here for the Americas region. Let's head down to Steve then, shall we? Who's got the details ahead of the race?
Cheers, Tom. Yes, let's talk about race number 1 of the Americas region. We are at Interlagos. Welcome to Brazil. Interlagos, my God, really, really good circuit. Produces great racing. 3 sectors. It's turn 1 and turn 4 that for me are the big overtaking opportunities, the Senna S and the Descida de Largo. Keep a keen eye on those 2 corners throughout the race. Look at the elevation change. It really does lift up through turn 12. And it's turn 12, which is really the crucial corner to get right on this lap, as it really decides your speed for the very long straight down towards turn number 1. So that's going to be the main place for the drivers who are really going to have to focus on getting their laps correct. So let's take a look at the race details for you. As is race number 1 of a regional final, we don't have to worry about tyre and fuel strategy. We're doing a straight up 7 laps on the hard tyre in Group 3 cars. So for me, this is going to be a really interesting race and I can't wait for it to begin.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Steve. So this is set to be a very exciting race then ahead of this one. What are you expecting, Jimmy, going into the first couple of corners? I mean, I think it's probably down the Reta Reposta in towards the Descida de Largo, turn 4, where we're probably going to see the first moves being made, given it's a rolling start.
Yeah, sort of what Steve said there. Using a bit of draft down the T4, get by very nice and quickly. Otherwise, you're going to end up stuck behind someone. You don't want that in the middle sector.
Yeah, let's head over to Julia then before the start of Lights Out.
Well, yeah, we took a little bit of time to get some quotes from some of our key drivers about what they feel going into this first race. So the pole sitter, Nicolas Rubelar, says, for me, in race one, the most important thing will be the qualifying, which is, of course, totally smashed, as there are not so many overtaking points around Interlagos. So he's got himself well in the right position for that. Lucas Bonelli, race one will be the most difficult and competitive. Any detail can make a big difference. So Igor Fraga didn't do too well this time out, but has got some comments he'd like to make about the second race, which is the GRB cars in Laguna Seca, which is another great track. And I expect it to be a bit more action-packed due to the nature of the category and the slipstream effect. So second race is all to be looking forward to as well. Then we have Engel in Ostraza. Anything can happen in the grand final, just like we've seen in the World Tours. This is a double points race, and everyone will be very, very aggressive. So it will be the toughest and the most entertaining of all the races. And finally, Randall Hayward says, I'm feeling very confident to get to the top four, but it will be very hard because I'm going up against some great drivers and World Tour winners. He's not wrong there. Back to you, Tom and Jimmy.
So it's going to be a bit of a sprint race, this one then, isn't it? And away from the lights, it's, well, a rolling start, as we said, so don't expect too much down to the centre S's. But how are the drivers going to be ready to tackle this race?
It's a tricky one. I mean, Steve, you've been in a lot of races, I imagine, anyway. Let's say you're Nico Rubelar. What's your strat going to T1? Just look in the mirror?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a case of, I think on lap one, he'll probably be all right. But as it isn't a long race, you're probably going to want to play it very defensive and just make sure you go all the way to the left-hand side, make sure the car trying to overtake you goes to the outside and the wrong side going into that corner.
Well, lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Steve. Let's head over to the grid, shall we, and get the first race of the Americas Regional Final underway. It is time then for the Americas Regional Final. Race number one at the Autodromo de Interlagos in Brazil is about to get underway. Group 3 cars for our drivers. Nicolas Rubelar, the Chilean driver, qualified on pole position. His Hyundai is his Group 3 machine. Andrew Brooks, though, hot on his heels, just 74 thousandths of a second adrift. Row 2, Angel in a Stroza, a Porsche, a car that he's very familiar with, having won the Manufacturer Series with that in Tokyo last year. Lucas Bonelli on home soil in the Aston Martin alongside him. Next row of the grid, Randall Hayward. He's a hot pick, and of course that Lexus was the Manufacturer Series car that won the championship in 2018 with Adriano Carrazza in the Volkswagen Vision Gran Turismo car alongside him. Then the 2018 Nations Cup champion Igor Fraga lines up in 7th position ahead of Tristan Bayliss in the Mercedes AMG Group 3 machine. The next row of the grid is Danny Solis on the fringes of the top 10 in the Peugeot RCZ. And in 10th position is Fabian Portilla, second of the Chilean drivers on the third of the Chilean drivers on the grid here. Kevin Pounder lines up P11. And alongside him is Robbie Heck, a newcomer, of course, to our regional final events. We've seen him in the top 16 superstars this year, performing very well. Tony Valverde lines up P13 in the Chevy Corvette. And P14 is Mark Pinel. Then P15 in the grid, Juan Hernandez, the Guatemalan driver in the Nissan GTR, with Nick McMillan in 16th and last position, rounding out the grid. So what are we to expect very quickly then over the course of this race, Jimmy? 7 times tyre wear, 3 times fuel consumption. How crucial is that going to be as a factor?
Well, as it's been alluded to many times, this is a sprint race. So really, don't worry about the fuel, don't worry about the tyres. They'll get a little bit slippery towards the end, but it's the same for everybody else. So just minimise mistakes. If you're Nico Rubelar, make sure you're keeping the lead for the middle sector whenever you come through there, and then trying to back people up as things go on.
Yeah, absolutely right. So Nicolas Rubelar then leads the field around in the Hyundai Genesis. Is he going to be able to take the checkered flag, though, in 7 laps' time? Let's see what is going to happen for him. Andrew Brooks is in 2nd position with Angel Nestroza and Lucas Bonelli, as we said, in P4 as well. So 7 laps here then for race number 1 in the Americas Regional Final, about to get underway very, very shortly indeed. We'll go and racing then here at the Autodromo de Interlagos. Nicolas Rubelar gets the field underway as they head down towards the center rest. 2nd position of Andrew Brooks. Into the first turn we go, and everybody taking it quite clear and clean through there, I should say, as they get the heat into the tyres and the brakes. But coming down the Retroposta is where we should see the first moves being made.
A nice clean tidy start. What you'd like to see on the first lap here. Rubelar away cleanly, that'll be good for him. But nearly there in the Aston Martin in the draft of Angel and Estroza coming now down to T4. Steve's overtaking spot of the race. We'll see how that pans out as we go on. Andrew Brooks there, very slippy in the Viper coming off the corner there. We know that car is torquey, so obviously getting a bit too aggressive on the throttle as things stand right now. Into T6, very fast right-hander. The cars are better with handling, with a better time through there. And now into this middle sector, all technical through here. So far, Nico Rubelar having a really good start, putting a little bit of a gap between him and Andrew Brooks, just struggling to get those hard tyres up to temperature.
So coming down then up towards the second part of the lap, riding on board here with Lucas Benelli. Is he going to think about a move into the right-hander? Not quite a way for him through there, but these drivers running very close to another. You can see him getting a bit squirrely on the power as he comes through there. They're coming towards Yun Cao, and as Jimmy said during qualifying, that is the place where you need to get it lined up and get a good exit coming through there as good as you can. So let's see whether any driver's going to be able to make any moves as they come down the start-finish straight to start the second lap. There is Lucas Benelli in fourth position. Randall Hayward very close behind him, as well as Adriano Carrazza not too far adrift there either. Still Nicolas Rubelar that leads the way, but look at the legs on that Aston Martin. That V12 has always been very quick in a straight line, and now it's right on the back of Angel Estroza into the centre S's. No move being made there for Lucas Benelli, but certainly closing up quite a lot with Randall Hayward nipping at his rear wing there. So let's keep an eye on it as they come down the Retroposta and see whether he can make a move into the Descida de Largo.
Interesting to see Benelli didn't go for a move there. I thought they really had that one summed up. He had the run and he could have probably just chopped one up the inside there, but chose not to do so. Maybe just opting to try and save a bit of time instead. Igor Fraga right now sitting down in seventh place after, by his standards, a fairly poor qualifying session behind fellow countryman Adriano Carrazza as we go up the hill once more behind that awesome drop top VW. Getting a nice little wind through his hair as he comes through T6 there. Not much you can really do at this point if you're Igor. You've got to just sort of wait for your move. I mean, Steve, of course, we have you a lot in these races. We've done a lot of these races around Interlagos. You're Igor right now. What's your plan of attack?
Yeah, you kind of have to wait through this section, turn 6 through to 11. Not much you can really do unless someone's making a mistake. You have to kind of set yourself up out of turn 12.
Well, speaking of setting somebody up, I think Angel Estroza is nipping at the heels of Andrew Brooks as well. That Dodge Viper looking like it's a little bit on the back foot. That's for second position. You can see just in the forefront of your shot there. Look at the run that Estroza's got coming through Yun Cao. So this is where we could see second place changing hands. Incident under investigation there for Randall Hayward, ignoring track limits. Could be set for a penalty. Let's see what is going to happen there with him. But clearly that Dodge Viper's got good legs in a straight line there for Andrew Brooks. No opportunity for Estroza to find his way through at the moment. A warning being given to Randall Hayward as a result of ignoring those track limits. But that is going to be confidence inspiring, at least there for Brooks, to know that he's got good straight line speed.
Yeah, it's sort of a little bit of safety for him. He knows that he hasn't got to worry too much at the end of a straight. As long as he gets a good exit coming up the hill, he can just sort of ignore the mirror almost and just focus on hitting the apex at T1. Estroza there, of course, and Randall Hayward. Fifth position right now for the American driver in the Lexus. As you said, Tom, that Lexus 2018 Manufacturers Champions. We know it's a fairly quick car. Maybe saying that Benelli's starting to struggle a little bit on these tires. He seems to have slowed up, fallen back a little bit from Estroza into the clutches of Hayward, but again, not much you can really do apart from follow the person in front of you through that middle sector. Now, I was going to suggest, Tom, that Viper driven by Andrew Brooks, maybe not the best car around here, but I remember a certain Jeff Gallen smashing it round here in the Superstar races, so maybe it's not quite gelling a bit properly.
Maybe not, no, it could be the case. Look at it, they actually made a bit of a mistake coming out of turn 3. That's why Randall Hayward is now all over his rear wing, but going back to the Viper and Andrew Brooks, indeed, as you said there, seems to be struggling, especially that middle sector. That's the second time he's failed to make that apex into the hairpin there, and I just wonder whether he's got too much pressure behind him, and we can see as we ride on board with him that he's certainly putting in the work ethic here to try and hold on to second place.
There's a little flash of lights there from Angel saying, come on, mate, if you're going to slide around, at least let me get by. But of course, there's no need for Andrew to do that. He'll not be bothered with that whatsoever. And anyone who's driven online, any sort of racing series, will know a flashing of a lights is basically, oh, be quiet, mate. Let me get on with it. Don't worry about it. Well, then saying that, Angel, they're going for a very late move, and Brooks sort of half closes the door, a little bit of contact between them there. Brooks has a better line though coming up down towards the T4 out of T3 now. And that's actually going to give Benelli a bit of a run as well. So Angel with that late move actually slowed himself up, and now he's put himself into touch to Benelli.
That is the concertina effect, isn't it? One small mistake has really begun to open the door, and a window of opportunity then ready for these drivers. Inestrosa is really very close indeed as they come out of turn 4 now and get ready to come up in towards Ferradura then. So is Angel Inestrosa going to try and make a move on Brooks and try and get past, because the thing is, Brooks trying to hold that line through the centre S cost him a little bit of time going through there, slowed everybody else up and allowed them to close up there as well. So this is getting very exciting indeed, and all the while they're squabbling amongst one another. Nicolas Rubelar is now nearly 2 seconds clear and up the road.
It's a bit of a train at the moment, it seems, with Brooks at the moment, so just trying to keep all the cars behind them. I mean, a bit of a truly train, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, we've got 2 trains forming at the moment. Looks like we've got one for second, and we've got one back here for ninth. And at the head of that is who have we got at the head of that?
Portillo, I think.
Yeah, Portillo at the head of the second train. So yeah, it seems like people struggling to overtake as they're stuck in these trains at the moment.
Well, somebody who's not been having a good race so far is Danny Solis. He's down in 13th position. That's 4 places back from where he started. Let's have a look at the replay and see what happened to Danny Solis then. So here we go. Danny Solis in P11 coming in towards turn 4, side by side with Kevin Pounder. Running a bit wide through there. Wonder if there was a little bit of contact with himself and Kevin, but that really cost him time. And that just goes to show there, if you're caught in that train, one simple mistake or one simple going wide through the corner just can cost you so much.
Yeah, I think trains are the theme here. I mean, we call that getting freight trains, when you just end up on the outside and you just sort of have to wait to drive back into the line again. He's lost so many bases doing that, which is a real shame. Meanwhile, Igor Fraga going for a move, and Randall Hayward a little bit late in the day there, I think, for that Igor. Didn't quite get the run out of the corner. Hayward just sitting on the line as he's entitled to do, of course. And Igor's really being made to work here. You can tell there's a little bit of rust here from our 2018 champ. Of course, he's been busy doing real-life racing in the F3 series, and he's been following him. We've all been following him there, of course. Kiki family definitely supporting Igor, but oh man, Randall is having to work very hard to keep Igor there, but I don't think the speed's there right now, Tom.
No, he's all over him like a cheap pair of jeans, but he's not able to find his way past there is Igor Fraga. So let's keep an eye out and see whether he is going to be able to find his way through. Lap 5 of the 7, they're coming up to crunch time here. We're already getting ready to start the penultimate lap, and of course this is going to be crucial in terms of points. Don't forget, double points in the final race may be a saving grace, but it's only the top 4 drivers here from this Americas region that will go through to the world final event. So every position is going to matter here.
Really tight qualifying conditions, of course, here for the Americas regional, and being in that top 4 important in every race, not just the last one. Here's Andrew Brooks still holding on to that second place. Tell you what, if you want a lesson on defending, Andrew Brooks is the one to give it to. He's managed to keep everybody behind him right now. Rubelar, he's checked out 2.4 seconds up the road. Now he's probably thinking, oh great, this is fantastic, I'm up for this. But Brooks, of course, not able to reply to that pace. It's under investigation, and I suppose has been
driving dangerously post-accident.
So it might have been a bad rejoin, as I thought I'd understand that as. So going back onto the circuit after maybe going a little bit wide, there is Rubelar. That's a gap. That's how much of a gap there is now between him and Brooks. Don't really see Andrew coming back here, but if he can keep second place, that'll still be a good start for the Canadian.
A lot of tension going on in this race, not many moves being made, but I wonder whether the Red West will descend before too long. We're not too far away from the final lap. A few drivers have made some good ground, in particular Juan Hernandez has just got himself up into P13, but otherwise not much really changing inside the top 10.
So the thing is, Tom, that what we've seen is if you do make a mistake, then you get Danny Solis. You get just left out to dry and everyone goes by you. So I think there's also an element of people maybe being afraid to make that move. That, well, I'm happy with second, I'm happy with third place. I don't really want to take any risks. Now, Nico Rubelar coming on to the last lap at the moment. Now, Rubelar has been a driver which I think it's fair to say his performance is up and down. When he's fast, he's very fast. He's capable of beating even the best in the EMEA region, but the form comes and goes, I think. Right now, it's
speaking of coming and going, look at this. Lucas Benelli all over the back of Andrew Brooks down to the first corner. Brooks defending with every ounce of talent that he has, but coming down through the centre S, this is where they need to get a good run, and this is where Benelli, with the legs on that V12 Vantage, is going to be a very big threat indeed for second place, and Angel Enestrosa is ready to try and join the party as well. Brooks knows that. He moves to the inside then, coming down the Retta Aposta in towards the left-hander then of the Destina de Largo. Is there going to be an opportunity for Benelli to find his way through? Is Enestrosa going to try and capitalise on this here as well? Very exciting as we come into the middle sector.
Yeah, masterful from Brooks there, just sitting on the racing line, sitting on the apex, not giving anyone any sort of opportunity to respond. Enestrosa is going to take advantage there. Benelli getting a little bit too close to Brooks, muscled his way by. That was proper opportunistic driving there for Angel Enestrosa, not just him as well. Carrazza gets through in the background, and Benelli's down to fifth. I told you, as soon as you move out of line, you get just shuffled. And Benelli's gone from third to fifth in as many corners, and now it's going to lose a position to Hayward. Is the old contact between the two, the American and Brazilian coming together, and Benelli out of shape, all sorts now, and down to sixth place.
That is exactly what Jimmy said would happen, and look at it now, from third down to sixth there for Lucas Benelli. Absolute disaster for the Brazilian on home soil. No such dramas though for Nicolas Rubilar. Second place is going to go down to the line by the looks of things, but Rubilar takes the spoils in race one here at the Autodromo de Interlagos. A faultless race from the Chilean driver, and second place will be Andrew Brooks. He kept calm under pressure. Fantastic there for him. Fifth place goes to the line as well between Randall Hayward and Lucas Benelli, with Hayward on this occasion getting the better of him. You can see Juan Hernandez there going side by side as well to the checkered flag. That was with Danny Solis, and some great side-by-side action further back, but a fantastic race there from Nicolas Rubilar. What an absolutely brilliant performance from the Chilean driver. He couldn't have done any more than that, really. Perfect from start to finish, led the way, and was never looked under pressure at all.
No, definitely not. And Brooks as well did really well to hold on to that second place there, really having to defend there, really had to work for that, and just sat pretty much every time he could, just sat in the apex saying, no, not interested in that, don't want any of that. But big story, again, Fraga started seventh, finished seventh.
Yeah, not really making much of an impact on that race at all, was it? I think it was quite hard, though, really, because these cars were so level on pace. It just took the mistakes from the drivers, and a lot of them kept their nerve right until the very end. The only one who really sort of stuck out was Lucas Benelli, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I can tell you now, because I'm a genius in maths, seventh is not in the top four.
No. Fantastic. Good insight there, Jimmy. Thank you very much for that. We should have asked Steve instead, shouldn't we? Classification then at the end of that race. Let's have a look at it now. So Nicolas Rubilar takes the spoils ahead of Andrew Brooks and Angel Enestrosa. Adriano Carrazza then finishes in P4 ahead of Randall Hayward. He got that on the line ahead of Lucas Benelli, with Igor Fraga, as Jimmy said, down in P7. Tristan Bayliss, Fabian Portilla and Kevin Pounder completing the top 10. Danny Solis, Juan Hernandez, Robbie Heck, Bernie Valverde, Nick McMillan and Mark Pennell completing the order there. So very impressive race for those drivers. In terms of the point standings, of course, they do indeed reflect the race results. So Nicolas Rubilar, Andrew Brooks, Angel Enestrosa and Adriano Carrazza, the drivers who sit inside those crucial top four positions after race one.
But everyone in the top 10 did score points there. So top 10's a goal, gets you off to a bit of a running start, but we all know that third race is double points, and they'll be working towards that. But every little helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know that points do mean prizes. Anyway, let's head over to Julia then, who is with Nicolas Rubilar.
Hey, Nicolas, how are you doing?
All good here, yeah.
How do you feel after that?
Oof, amazing. I mean, the first race it's always like the moral hit, so I feel like pretty pumped up for the next races.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of wonder, when you're kind of so far ahead of the pack, that, you know, really the pressure was going on like everywhere behind you. How aware are you of what's happening behind you? Do you even think about it?
Well, when the distance is close enough to slipstream, yeah, I really care about what the guy behind me is doing. But when I pull a gap, it's like, yeah, I can not push at the limit, so I can be a little more safely, I can say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you did really well to keep your cool and not make any mistakes. So next race, Laguna Seca, and, you know, what's your kind of strategy going into that? What are you thinking now? Now you've made a good start. How are you going to keep that momentum?
This race is particularly will be defined by the qualifying. I mean, there's a gap between the BOP of the cars. I have the Subaru, which is not bad, but I have to really push the limits of it. There is a turn in a specific that will be super hard. It's the turn that it's before the corkscrew, which is the hardest one for me on Laguna Tega. So I would try not to push so hard on that turn, but trying to stay on the front pack.
You just got to remember that you're a World Tour winner, baby. You can do this.
I'll try.
You'll be great. Good luck going ahead with the race, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to go back to Tom and Jimmy for some replays.
Yeah, cheers there, Julia. Thank you very much. Lovely to hear from Nicolas Rubilar. As he said, pumped up, and the big oof halfway through that, the prospects of the future races.
I don't know if you noticed, but his brother was actually there in the background too. We saw him at the first World Tour event when they were both singing on the podium at Chile. So it's nice to sort of see him back there now, giving him the support now.
I sincerely hope that if he does do the top honours here tonight, that we get some more singing on their virtual podium. I think that's a plan. The Chilean flag, all of that, that'll be good, won't it? Anyway, let's have a look, shall we, at some replays then from race 1 at the Autodromo de Interlagos and piece together what happened there, because there were quite a few things that went on. So here's lap 3 then. Andrew Brooks in second position. Here is Angel Enestrosa trying to make a move, and Brooks kind of half-heartedly shutting the door.
Yeah, just came across a bit late there. I think sort of lunged a little bit late as well, and was determined to defend the move, but all in all, I think it was fair to do that. Here was Danny Solis just getting hung out to dry on the outside here by Kevin Pound. A bit of contact there. Solis on the outside line and just hemorrhaged his places down to 13th.
Yeah, so that was that move there. There is Bernie Valverde versus Danny Solis as well. And here you can see Angel Enestrosa going very deep in towards the center S's. That allowed Randall Hayward to go past, and that was Adriano Carrazza getting the advantage. So Hayward went from attacking to losing position there. So big drama for him. And Steve, these are the trains upon trains upon trains that we had in the race.
Yep, trains was the theme of this one, as the race sort of went very static for large portions, as the cars formed into these large groups and they couldn't really seem to get past each other as they were all sort of in the slipstream, and it basically cancelled each other out.
Here is Andrew Brooks then versus Adriano Carrazza, Luca Bonelli rather I should say, into the right-hander. Angel Enestrosa ready to take advantage. The smallest of margins there, allowing Enestrosa to go through into third position. And you can see Luca Bonelli, well, he just upset his rhythm and he was right towards the back after that order. So there is Nicolas Rubilar taking it, and Lucas Bonelli coming home only 6th at the end of that race. Very, very unpredictable, wasn't it?
A lot of fun, though. I sort of enjoy watching these races pan out because whilst maybe we didn't get the most overtaking, you sort of knew something was brewing the entire time. And that was Bonelli, unfortunately, was a victim of that. He just tried to go for a move, shuffled, and that was it.
Something was going to happen. We just didn't know where or when, did we?
Yeah, horrid stuff. Not a fan of that.
Good stuff. Let's go over to Steve, shall we?
Yeah, I was watching Igor Fraga for large portions of that, and he started 7th. Obviously, we are used to him being first, or second at least. And he sort of just struggled just to really make any sort of impression on that race. He was at the back of the first train, if you like. He was the last carriage of that first train. He had a couple of half-hearted attempts to go for 6th place, but for the most part, he just stayed in 7th. Didn't really make any impression.
Drivers out on track then, qualifying for race 2 of the Americas regional final.
First time coming in from Andrew Brooks is going to be a 124.9, just sneaking in the 125s there.
But the man on the move is Lucas Bonelli then. So he was on good form in the first race up until the final lap, and he's really going to try and pull his race around because it wasn't a good finish in 6th position. He's currently fastest at the moment in the final sector. Over the line he comes, and he's fastest overall in qualifying then. A 124.844 for the Brazilian.
Carrazza goes a bit quicker as well, does 25.12.
Behind the wheel of the Scooby, what is he going to be able to do? It'll move him, I reckon, about 3rd or 4th position in this one if he's careful. Let's see what happens over the line. Actually, only 5th fastest, lost a bit more time.
Horrible lap for Fabian Portier. The Super Pole really not suiting him, it seems. It's going to be a 126.7, a second off the back of the grid.
Oh, dearie me. What about Tristan Bayliss? And he's hauling backside round here, but he's even slower. Actually, I thought he might have got things under control, but it's not, sadly, the fastest way around this track. 1.8 seconds adrift then.
Now, a bit quicker than those who've come before him, though, so we should see him get somewhere into the mix. So it isn't going to be that high up, I don't think. It's going to be 25, I reckon. 25.5 puts him up into P9. Not looking good for our 2018 Nations Cup champ so far. He's got a lot of work to do. Hernandez now his go in that glorious Nissan GTR. You love to see that there, don't you? And P9 as well, that displaces Igor Fraga. Fraga down to 10.
So the newcomer then moves himself up the order. Nick McMillan goes into P10 as well. Fraga now down outside the top 10. As qualifying sewn up then, absolutely amazing performance from Lucas Bonelli, a newcomer, let's not forget, of course, to the regional finals. Great to see him doing so well in those Group B cars.
And obviously something that suits him, isn't it? These Group B cars are interesting beast to tame, but he seems to have the hang of it, and I'm sure he'll be very happy with his debut pole position in these finals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take a look, shall we, at the details for this circuit. It's the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, based just outside of Monterey in California, a circuit that is steeped in racing history. It's held various events over the years. You can see 3.6 kilometers, one of the shorter tracks that we race at, full of elevation changes though. Crucially, the corner that everyone knows, turn 8, the corkscrew. It is, I think, 8 stories it drops down there. It is unbelievable when you look at it in person, and you just don't, it doesn't do it justice. There you can see from the top of the circuit at the corkscrew to the bottom down at the end of turn 2. That is 55 meters. So it is a circuit that is going to be very unique for our drivers to contend with. Keen to see how they will get on. Let's take a closer look, shall we, at the race details ahead of the second race. So Group B cars, racing hard tyres for our drivers, 10 laps here as well. I've got a rolling start there as also. So 3 times fuel consumption, 7 times tyre wear on racing hard tyres. I don't think tyre wear is going to be too much of a factor in this race, but it could play a part.
Depends how hard you send it. I mean, in these things, it's quite easy to spin all 4 wheels. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be too big of a factor, but of course, always look after your tyres, because they'll look after you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get ready then, shall we, and get the race underway ahead of the Americas Regional Final, Race 2 at Laguna Seca, coming up. To the grid then here at Laguna Seca, Group B cars are the name of the game. 10 laps for our drivers to contend with. 12 points, the maximum on offer. This man here starts from pole position. Lucas Bonelli, his first ever pole in a regional final event, with Angel Inestrosa, the Chilean driver, lines up alongside him. Row number 2, Andrew Brooks, the Canadian. Not a bad lap time there. He was pretty quick. Alongside him is the Brazilian of Adriano Carrazza in the Ford Focus. Row number 3, that's headed by Nicolas Rubilar, our winner from race number 1. Need to see if he can make some forward progress in this race. Likewise, Kevin Pounder, he'll be hoping for a stronger finish compared to race number 1. Randall Hayward lines up in P7 in the Toyota 86. And alongside him is the American Danny Solis, who again we know can be quick around here, maybe not so in this machinery. Juan Hernandez, the Guatemalan driver, lines up P9 in the Nissan GTR with Nicholas McMillan alongside him. Good to see Nick a bit further up the order compared to where he was in race 1. Igor Fraga, though, outside the top 10, our 2018 Nations Cup champion with some work to do. Robbie Heck in the Subaru WRX lines up alongside him. P13, Bernie Valverde, the Costa Rican driver. And alongside him on that row of the grid is Mark Pennell in the Ford Mustang. And the final row then of the grid, Tristan Bayliss in the Audi Quattro, very iconic car, I'm sure you will agree. Alongside him is Fabian Portilla, an absolute dogging of a dog session of a qualifying there out for him, so he will be hoping for some forward progress in this race. So Luca Bonelli starts from pole position. What's the tactic down into T1 here, Jimmy? It's a very short run into T2, I should say. It's a very short run into that hairpin.
And luckily these things are four-wheel drive, so there'll be a nice bit of traction off the line for Bonelli. Of course, conversely for those behind them as well. So just be really the second mirror, make sure no one gets on the inside, just try and lead out of there. That'll be his goal. I think he should be able to do it with this rolling start as well. I'll be interested to see what some of the other guys can do. Maybe those who didn't qualify so well. Of course, Portilla down to 16th, we know he's quick, and Rubilar was saying before that the Impreza not too quick around here. So maybe that'll come to play at some point in this race.
You can see the hills of Monterey then in the background as Lucas Bonelli leads the field around the final corner. Race number 2, the Americas Regional Final at Laguna Seca in Group B cars about to get underway. Who will take the checkered flag in 10 laps time? We're about to find out as we go racing in California. Bonelli leads the field over the timing line and over the brow of the hill through the first corner, down in towards turn 2. We're about to go. Inestrosa in second position. He's going to have to keep an eye on his mirrors as well, because you know that Andrew Brooks is close, but even closer is Adriano Carrazza, who sends it down the inside at turn number 2. The Brazilian is through into P3, so an inspired start there from Carrazza. He's now into the podium position. His next target will surely be Angel Inestrosa if he can close up. But that was a brave move there from Carrazza. It paid off beautifully.
And that's the aggression that we're used to seeing from Adriano. We know he's not afraid to make those moves, make those lunges. This time it came off well from up into P3. Andrew Brooks down to 4th position now as we come uphill for the first time towards T7. That very difficult blind left hand. They've got to sort of chuck the car in, hope you get it right, and then run out to exit. Rubelar there looking very strong so far in the impressive Subaru. Sorry, coming up the hill now. Brooks trailing Carrazza in the slipstream, and now we go uphill and you brake just before the crest here to help slow the car down and chuck it downhill. The road just falls away in front of you. And then you come down to the rainy curve now, going to the inside, try and touch a little bit of curb on the outside. Brooks a little bit wide, they're missing the apex slightly, and Carrazza gets a little bit of a gap over him, but then we come now round to finish our first lap with not many movers except of Brooks and Carrazza.
Everybody taking it carefully on this first lap. There's a good amount of time for them to try and make some moves. The slipstream, of course, isn't going to be so prominent in these cars, given the lack of downforce that they produce compared to, say, for example, the Group 3 machines that we had in the last race. But, of course, just also because the straights are not particularly long here at the WeatherTech race. Where Laguna Seca, you can see a tighter line there for Andrew Brooks on the inside. Really closes up onto the back of Adriano Carrazza. We ride on board briefly with the Canadian driver. A bit of a gap, bit of daylight between themselves. Now Nicholas Rubelar putting a bit of daylight between himself and then the next group, which is Randall Hayward leading the way. So Hayward, though he's pretty quick, is not quite able to keep pace with the top 5. Very much they've splintered off into their own little sections here in this race, so we should expect some nice fights between these two.
Looks like at the moment, Carrazza not quite on the same pace as you say at the moment, just falling back a little bit from that top 2. Now Brooks will be aware of that. Brooks will be looking at the 2 in front, thinking, okay, I cannot let these guys get away, almost pushing that forward up the hill now as we come up towards the corkscrew once again. And it's not really a pace to make a move there unless you're Alex Zanardi. Of course, get well soon, Alex. We're all thinking of you as we come now down the hill once again. Brooks all over the back of Carrazza though, just pushing him through, getting really impatient now.
Well, the thing is, that was a slight mistake there going through turn 7. You mentioned about that sausage curve on the inside during qualifying, Jimmy. He hit that curve really aggressively and that halted his run, halted his momentum, and you can now see Brooks is all over the back of him here, so let's see if he's going to be able to do anything down into turn 2. We know that's probably the most opportune place to find his way past. That's where Carrazza found his way through, and that is where Brooks is having a look up the inside of the Brazilian driver. Side by side they go, nicely done, and Rubelar's going to fancy a slice of the action as well. Not quite able to pull alongside, but Carrazza down to P4 is now keeping a watchful eye on his mirrors because he's got the Chilean driver, the Subaru of Nicholas Rubelar for company as well. So again, one small mistake, one shuffle out of the pack can really cost you dear. And all the while these trio of drivers has been squabbling, look who's been clearing off in the distance. Benelli and Inestrosa now 1.7 seconds up the road here.
Hey, well, how about Inestrosa? You know, this is someone in the top 16 races who was fairly quick, but I wouldn't say, you know, top 5 usually, sort of outside of that area. Now here he is challenging Benelli for the lead here at Laguna Seca. So coming up again once to the crest. It's so tricky timing your braking zone for this part of the course here because you get it wrong, you just spear off into the wall in front of you. If you get it wrong the other way, you get the guy coming up behind you and dives you to the apex. So it really is very tricky. Even these Group B cars that have a ton of braking potential and a ton of aero, especially if you're in that Peugeot, it can be difficult around here. Now, Steve at the moment has been checking in with Igor, who doesn't seem to have made much progress.
No, certainly doesn't there, Igor Fraga. Not such a big fan of this machinery. Steve, can you shed any light on the situation? Igor Fraga just not being able to find any forward momentum here.
No, I think he's so wrapped up. I think he's so busy, bless him. He hasn't got time. Steve, I think you're with us now, mate.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Yes, I've been following Igor Fraga, and unfortunately for him at the moment, it's a familiar story from the first race. He seems to be the rear carriage in a train, and he's not really made any progress at all. So hopefully for him, things can change very soon.
Just needs better qualifying, it seems, Igor. Again, the reason why we focused on this so much is we're used to seeing Igor up the front running away, but he's just, I think, a little bit too busy with other commitments at the moment to put in the time that's required to be at the top of the field in these races. It just goes to show you how quickly the level changes and how easy it is to fall off that pace.
No, exactly. I was just about to say, bear in mind, he is, of course, busy driving in F3 testing at the moment as well and thinking about his race preparations for the 2021 season, so he's a busy old boy, and it's great to have him here and enjoying this one. But it's another Brazilian who's at the sharp end of the field, Lucas Bonelli. This, of course, is his debut in the regional finals. We've seen him in the top 16 superstars throughout 2020, putting in some very strong performances indeed, and he's reflecting that with his performance here today in the Americas regional final, especially in race 2. He looks like he's got these Group B cars under control, but Inestrosa in that RCZ keeping him so honest in this race, just not letting him get away. And you wonder, as we hit the halfway stage, if he's going to be thinking about a cheeky look if he can find his way closer.
Yeah, the handy thing right now of your Angel Inestrosa is you sort of get the chance to just watch what Bonelli is doing. You've got a few laps in hand, so you haven't got to make the move straight away. But just see where Bonelli's fast, where he's slow, maybe try and make a move based on that. You can see there in your top right-hand corner, those are our live point standings. If the race finished right now, it will be Inestrosa, Brooks and Rubelar all tied on 18 points. So Bonelli one behind on 17. And a reminder, it's only the top 4 that go through. So I think tight is the
understatement.
I think, yeah.
It is. Don't forget, of course, the grand final, which is coming up after this one, is double points as well. Rebel X 2019's at Sardinia. That's going to be a tantalising prospect. Remember back to one of our World Tour events last year, we had some fireworks there. There's Carrazza, again, making a bit of a meal of turn 7, and look at how much momentum that's costing him up the hill. He has to go defensive with Rubelar all over his rear wing like a bad rash, trying to find his way past, but just no opportunity presenting itself there for Rubelar. Carrazza doing a good job of just positioning his car in exactly the right place, but this, of course, is costing Rubelar time as he gets stuck behind the Brazilian.
Nico, of course, in this WRX, again, as we alluded to, he said that he wasn't really confident in this car in terms of how quick it was compared to the rest of the field. So really this race is damage limitation for him at this point. So if he can gain any positions at all, that's always going to be a positive. And you can see, of course, that fight between Carrazza and Brooks we had earlier on in the race. Look at the gap it's created now between the top 2 and the Canadian. There is Andrew Brooks just coming into picture now, coming into T1. But more importantly, look, there's an Inestrosa right up behind us in the Peugeot RC stage behind there, pushing the centre sector along. And then meanwhile, a fight between the Americans. Danny Solis coming back through the field after a poor qualifying, again showing that they're going to take one of his favourite tracks up to P7.
That looked like a nice simple move there, Steve, down into the first corner. Did he just pull alongside and get himself ahead? He's so engrossed there, Steve. We'll get back to him in a few moments' time. But I'd really love to hear Steve's thoughts on this Inestrosa Bonelli battle, actually, for position at the moment, because I wonder what is going through Inestrosa's mind when he's going to be thinking about attacking. Bit of a slide there out of turn 7 for Lucas Bonelli as they come up the top of the hill. Here is Rubelar once again on the rear wing of Adriano Carrazza. Is he going to find his way past? Again, Carrazza aggressively defending and chopping over, moving over into the braking zone. They're a bit deep into the corkscrew. That's going to cost him time and momentum as he runs off track. Is it an opportunity presenting itself here for Nicholas Rubelar? It's not, and now that's actually an opportunity presenting itself for Randall Hayward, who's now down the inside. Side by side he goes as they come through Rainies. They're going to flick it right, which gives Rubelar track position once more, but Hayward's going to try and hold it a long way round the outside into the final corner. It's Rubelar who manages to maintain that position ahead, but again, just one simple error causing them to all sort of fall out of sync with one another could potentially have been very costly there for Nicholas.
So I think maybe what happened there, it's hard to see, is that there might have been a little bit of contact there and might have pushed him off. Steve, did you get a better look at it?
All I could see was the resulting chaos. It looked like he just hesitated as Carrazza came back onto the track. He wasn't sure which side to go and just backed out, and unfortunately for him, he lost a position out of it.
My thoughts there was that I think there might have been a little bit of a biff between, and he was sort of letting him come back on ahead, saying, "Sorry, mate, the position's still yours." But maybe we can get replay at some point.
Racing from bad to worse for Igor Fraga, by the way. He's duelling with Robbie Heck. Heck just got ahead of him, but Fraga repaying the favour. Now back up into P11. Steve, I wanted to ask you, what do you think of this Bonelli-Inestrosa battle? If you're Inestrosa, what are you doing at the moment? Are you just keeping a watchful eye on Bonelli's lines and braking points and then trying to find your way through? What do you think is going through the Chilean's mind at the moment?
For a move at the moment, Bonelli's just driving a really good race, not making any mistakes at all, and I think it's a mistake that he kind of has to wait for to get a chance to go for the lead.
Finally I get to be right. I've been waiting for 2 years to be correct, and there it is. So there was a little bit of contact there. I think the stewards just a little bit of a warning there. I think there would have been a bit more of a harsh penalty had he not waited and let him come back on again. Is it me, or is Brooks a little bit closer than he was before?
1.2 seconds. Let's keep an eye on the lap times there. So the two drivers in front, Bonelli and Inestrosa, 1:29.8, Brooks 1:29.5. So that gap has come down by 0.3 of a second. And whilst they're squabbling, yeah, you're absolutely right. The Canadian is going to be keeping a very watchful eye on proceedings. There's only a couple of laps remaining here, so he really needs to hope that these two start squabbling and just holding each other up, because that will be a very tantalising prospect in the last couple of laps here.
Yeah, I think that fight with Karatsa really sort of dictated Brooks' position in this race. And look how close Inestrosa is now. It's looking to the outside, coming up to T6. Not really a place to overtake. He might try and get the cut back here as Bonelli sideways, trying to get on the power truck. That comes across very late there, does Luca Bonelli, I think. Tried to have all the track there. Can only have a little bit of it, mate. Oh, and then a big hit. Angel goes straight into the back of Bonelli. Bonelli's sent off into the gravel there. That's a tricky one, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe Bonelli was a little bit late on the brakes. It looks like Brooks now has taken the lead, taken advantage. As Inestrosa slows down after contact, and Andrew Brooks, Christmas comes early, up into the lead he goes.
Well, there we go then. That's exactly what we said. We're going to have a look at a replay of that, I'm sure, in a few moments' time, because Andrew Brooks is now leading the way. So as you said, Christmas come early, and given he finished second in the first race, and now he is leading this final race, one would imagine that he is going to be grinning like a Cheshire Cat. Meanwhile, somebody who won't be grinning like a Cheshire Cat is Danny Solis, who's in P7, because he's still stuck behind Randall Hayward. Look at this train of cars, and look at Karatsa, who is at the front of this queue. Meanwhile, let's cut to a replay then and see what happened there with that incident going into turn number 7. So it's Bonelli versus Inestrosa then for the race lead. Talk us through it, Jimmy.
Let's have a look at it then. I don't know, it's hard to say. It looks like maybe Angel was a little bit caught out by the brakes there. As you see, he got off the throttle afterwards, so I think maybe he knows, oh, that might have been on me, that one. We'll see what the stewards say. They are investigating at the moment, but it looked like a fairly clear biff to me at the moment. Love to hear Steve's thoughts on that when we can get him here as well. Meanwhile, we have Andrew Brooks again leading the race now, only by 9/10 of a second. He might be handed a bit more time here if the stewards see it fit to slap Angel with a penalty, but again, Brooks, I think, must be looking around thinking, oh, that was lucky. I'm happy with that.
That old saying goes, to finish first you must finish, of course, and Brooks just keeping his nose clean has been very welcome. Angel Inestrosa with a 2-second penalty there for colliding with another car.
It seems as well, we also have Nico Rubelar's been in the water. He's dropped down from 5th to 9th. I think we have a replay of what happened there, but he's now at the back of the train. Here we are then, so there's Rubelar wide at the first corner. Hayward goes up the inside, and that's Andrew Brooks. So I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I think maybe a little bit of contact going on. You see they're getting shuffled out the train.
It must have been shuffled out, one would imagine, but either way, it's put him really on the back foot onto the final lap now. Now, Inestrosa's got a 2-second penalty here. If it was on a long straight, a circuit with a long straight, you would imagine that he would be quaking in his boots because Bonelli would be right up his back bottom trying to find his way past, but it's 3 seconds. He's got a 2-second penalty. I would imagine he's probably going to be safe here.
Doesn't want to be in the front box, does he? But yeah, I think in these cars, luckily, they have four-wheel drive, massive acceleration, so just whack it down a couple of gears and hope to get out again. So here we go. We're coming into penalty zone now. There's Brooks. I want to see what happens with Inestrosa here. So there's a penalty. 2 seconds being served in the background. Let's watch the live time and quickly to see if Bonelli can get by. I think he'll be okay because he can take the inside line here. He does. Look, there you go. So really, at the moment, I think Angel got off lightly with that. In fact, he didn't actually lose a position. He still stays second place.
No, exactly. Well, you're absolutely right. There's the live points rankings on the top of your screen. As it says, Andrew Brooks will be the man who leads it going into the final race. As we know, with the EMEA region last week counts for absolutely nothing at all because the last race is double points. So it could be a very exciting prospect then. Here you can see, of course, Danny Solis, who is getting closer to Adriano Karatsa, but Andrew Brooks is certainly going to be very, very happy after this one. Through into the final corner comes the Canadian driver, and out of it now, over the line, Brooks takes the win in race 2 here at Laguna Seca. The Canadian is on top in the point standings and in the race as well. Angel Inestrosa finishes second. Lucas Bonelli, the Brazilian, makes it 3 nationalities inside the top 3 positions, and you saw a weave there from Danny Solis as he came over the line. That is because he has made up 3 positions on these final few laps. Look at how close it is as well, with Igor Fraga finishing at the back of that train. Some great battles going on up and down the field, but no disputing this man here. Andrew Brooks kept calm, kept his nose clean, and he reaps the rewards.
Bonelli, we have a driver cam there, well, we had it on our end, just shaking his head. He's frustrated after that, and Angel, I think, straight on his phone says, sorry mate, didn't mean to, but yes, Andrew Brooks there, sorry. 2nd win in a row. Great result for the Canadian.
So then at the end of that race, let's take a look, shall we, at the classification after race number 2 at Laguna Seca. So it's Andrew Brooks who takes the spoils at the end of that one ahead of Angel Inestrosa. Luca Bonelli finishing in P3. Danny Solis up in P5, just behind Adriano Carrazza. So close. I mean, they were all running nose to tail throughout the entire race.
Yeah, they really were. And it was a great result for Danny Solis. He made up 3 places in that race. It doesn't sound like a lot, but he was by far the biggest mover in that. Of course, big story, Bonelli and Inestrosa with that contact. You have to wonder what Bonelli's thinking right now, but a look of his webcam, maybe some words we can't really repeat on the broadcast, it seems. Fraga, terrible race. P13 for our Nations Cup champion. And bear in mind, top 4 going through, he's not in a good position right now.
No, absolutely not. Let's talk to Steve Brown, shall we? Steve, what do you think about Fraga's race then? What's going on?
Yeah, he just did not get going at any point in that race. He sat on the back of the second train, if you like, and then it looked like he cooked his tyres. By the second half of the race, he was just going backwards and backwards and backwards. I think it was about lap 6 or 7, had an incident with another driver, and by that point, he was just well off the second train.
Take a look at the points standings then after 2 races in the Americas regional finals. And as we can see, Andrew Brooks sits at the top of the order, 22 points. He's 4 points clear of Angel Inestrosa in second position. Nicolas Rubelar, Adriano Carrazza. If it stays as it was, those would be the 4 drivers in the Americas regions that will be going through. But we can see it's pretty close further down. Double points on offer for the grand final as well. It's going to make it a bit interesting.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're sitting in 10th position, as is Tristan Bayliss right now, if you get a win in the last race, that'll probably be enough to elevate you into one of those top 4 positions. So super tight at the moment, definitely very competitive. I think all drivers are going to be giving it all going into this last one.
Steve, what do you reckon about the point standings there? We've got 3 drivers at the bottom, Valverde, Pinel, Heck, who failed to get off the mark. Do you reckon they could maybe do something to turn their race around in this double points grand final, or do you think that could be their weekend done already?
I think with the double points system, I don't think anyone can be cast away just yet. Even the guys in the top 4, no one is safe at the moment. I really don't think because of how big the points are for double points. No one's safe. Anyone could still get through.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Steve. So Andrew Brooks, the best surname in the business, of course. I'm not biased in any way, shape or form. Thank you very much. Sits at the top of the order after 2 races, and he's talking to Julia.
Hey, Andrew, how are you doing?
Oh my God, amazing. After that was the last thing I expected. That definitely made my night a lot better. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, it was really intense because obviously, the big battle that happened ahead of you and you just kind of seized the moment and got by. I mean, were you just kind of waiting for that mistake to happen? Because usually something will happen, after so many laps.
Quite frankly, I was just running my own race. I wasn't even trying to pay attention to anyone around me. I was just really, as soon as I was attacked in turn 1, my first priority became to get back in front of the Focus, because my short check of the looking at his speed on the straight, I knew I wasn't going to pass him on the straight, so I knew I had to get in front by the time I got to one of the corners. After that, it just became a mission of just holding on to 3rd place. And I mean, I can't usually use me and luck in the same sentence, but I'm going to use it today. I think that it definitely worked in my favor, so I still can't believe it.
Yeah, I know you're ahead in the standings now. If we were to finish now, you would win, but obviously the final race, double points. What's your thoughts and your strategy going into it?
Just drive. Honestly, I don't have much of a... I try not to think about it too much. I just go in, I just do the best quality lap I can, and I work with that situation. Obviously, your strategy is going to be very different if you start, say, P2 or P3 as opposed to like P9, P10. So I'm just going to qualify as fast as I can and choose my strategy based on that qualifying position.
Oh, well, good luck to you. It seems that luck is definitely on your side, so we're all rooting for you. And we're going to chuck it back over to Tom and Jimmy for some replays.
Thank you very much indeed. So let's take a look, shall we, at some replays then from race number 2. See what spicy action happened out there on track. This is Carrazza versus Brooks down into turn number 2. Brooks sending it down the inside. Very big old lunge there. Carrazza not really closing the door, leaving a big wide old gap. There's a bit of contact there though, and that nearly cost him another position to Rubelar.
Yeah, Brooks finally repaying the favour. Carrazza still on him on the first lap, getting back up into 3rd place. Here was Nico Rubelar, also involved in that as well. Now here was Inestrosa and Bonelli. This was Inestrosa trying to find his way by, couldn't quite do so. Same with Rublar and Karatza here. This is where Rublar runs into the back of Karatza in the braking zone. Here it is now. This is a little bit of a misjudgment on the braking zone. Karatza forced wide. Rublar waits here to let Karatza back on, but that wasn't really a good idea.
No, because you can see up the inside, have a look on your left. Ah, there we are. Randall Hayward says hello, and he goes side by side with him, gets himself ahead, but fortunately for Rublar, the track goes right here, and that just allowed the Chilean driver to hold it through on the inside. Hayward stuck on the outside there, out of track position, out of road, and down into 6th place once more. So a lot of tension going on here. Now, what about Inestrosa versus Bonelli? What do you reckon for this, Steve?
Moment of the race, really, that decided everything. And it looked to me like Inestrosa it was all his mistake, really. Just didn't anticipate where Bonelli was going to brake, and, well, unfortunately, just sent him wide.
Allowed Brooks into the lead, and after that, he was never troubled again, taking the checkered flag on lap number 10. So a very exciting race there. Brooks now sits at the top of the pile by 4 points. And, well, I'm looking forward to seeing what is going to happen in this grand final as well.
I think so. But, you know, you have to wonder who's strong. Who's strong in the X2019s? Who's going to be fast? Now, I know we talk about him a lot, but Praga. He's always been incredibly quick in the X2019. It's been his car of choice. We've seen so many times where he's just thinking, all right, I'm off, see you. And just doesn't come back. If he can win this, there's still a chance he'll make it through into that top 4, but it's going to be difficult.
Well, we now look ahead then to the grand final for the Americas region. And of course, the Red Bull X 2019 at the Sardinia Road Track A layout is the name of the game. It's a tricky car and a tricky circuit combination. So we thought we'd send Super GT and Jimmy Broadbent out to have a head-to-head race and see who was the fastest.
Right then, so race 2 of mine and Stevie T's little 1v1 series. This time we are in the Americas regional final. I've got a lot to do, already one behind.
It was an interesting race back at Spa, but we found ourselves now at Sardinia Road Track A. Very interesting circuit. Now, not a real circuit. Jimmy might not know this one.
I've driven it a bit, not as much as Steve has, of course, and I just thought I'd get the excuses out of the way first, you know, get him out of the way. So if I win here, then I'll be a bit surprised, to be honest.
I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I want it to make it 2-0, you know?
It always starts me second, man. Okay, go. Oh, you wish. You wish, Steve.
We're right. Oh.
You wish you had this skill.
Rigged.
Right, I'm going to defend T1 with my life. No! Oh, no. No way!
Oh, mate. That's a career ender there, my friend.
This is not fair.
You got the slipstream, though.
Absolutely ruined there by Steve. Oh, it's a bit cheeky there. Really shouldn't have looked. Good way to slow yourself down. Mate, where you going? Oh, you!
Thanks. Cheers, mate.
So, easy around hill, my word. So, we're seeing one of the problems through this sector already. When you're going through these fast corners, it's kind of hard to find somewhere to pass one line all the way through, but I get a draft up here, so I might.
So it's really good to take an opportunity up here into this big braking zone at the top of the hill.
Oh, a bit too far back.
Great. Oh, my.
Steve's messed up.
That was horrifically wide.
Now, this is not what you want through here. It's 2x2 because...
I'm sure the finalists will be driving a bit better than that.
I doubt it. No.
Oh.
Easy. Okay, that section through there is crazy, and it really is definitely one at a time. So, really, you want to get your overtaking done before you get to this point.
Oh my goodness! You say easy. It definitely wasn't an easy corner. Got to take it easy.
Okay, so I'm ahead now, but this is a very similar situation to what happened at Spa, isn't it? So, I'm looking in my mirrors to see where Steve is.
It's a really long straight here, and a fairly big braking zone. Which side are you going? Oh, the late dart across. Don't get done around the outside again.
No.
Oh!
Gonna just drive you off the circuit this time.
Strong defence.
What Steve doesn't know is I completely missed my braking zone. I know he's there. He's there somewhere. He's looking for the second round of embarrassment.
Just picking my opportunity, you know. Be nice and patient. You don't have to do it straight away.
I feel like I've got Jaws behind me or something. Oh no!
Oh, that's a bit wide there.
That's a wall.
Okay, here we go. This is what you want. Just tuck into that slipstream.
Where am I going to go though, Steve? Where am I going? Steve, where am I going?
Oh, okay.
He's going to the outside. I'm going to squeeze him out there.
Can I send it around the outside?
Oh, he ain't making that. He ain't
I'm
making
in
that.
the grass.
Come on. How far back is he? Oh, I can win this!
No! Oh my goodness.
On skill alone, come on.
I braked at the 100 board. Just spin it on the final corner. Easy to do.
Nah, all the time in the world now.
This is big embarrassment right here.
Look at that. Look at that gap. And that's on pace alone. There were no mistakes there from
Absolute
Steve.
domination.
There you go. 1-1, baby. I'll take that. Where are you? I can't even see you. You're so far back.
Oh my God. Was that a 4 second? 4 seconds. Pretty embarrassing margin at the end there.
I'm happy. I'm very happy. So 1 each for me and Steve, but very much like the real life competition, double points for the last race. So basically, whoever wins the next one wins. It's going to be me.
Qualifying then underway in the Americas Regional Grand Final then here at the Sardinia Road Course. So this is Andrew Brooks, the man who sits at the top of the pile going into this final race, trying to spot his braking point into that first corner. It just amazes me how late they can brake and the speed that they can carry, but oversteering moments like that on the exit of T1 are not going to be ideal.
No, definitely not. It's very difficult to get these things up to temperature that quickly. And here we are then through this left-handed, chuck it in, really clumsy right after that, trying to touch that curb too much. It can really unsettle the car. And Brooks is really wringing the neck of this X2019 now. Third gear corner to the left, well, it was to me anyway, it is to Brooks as well. Watch out for this barrier on the right, comes up very quickly and almost touching there as we come up now the hill. And it's just flat out through here. Pitch your line over the crest and then walk the car over to the right-hand side. Braking about the 100-metre mark if you're feeling brave, 50 if you're feeling brave, but very brave there for Andrew Brooks there. Tucks the car into the apex, lets it run wide. Now this section here really separates the men from the boys as we go through this fast bit up the right. Watch out for this left-hander, down a gear through here. No, he's completely flat. Steve, hell of a lap so far from Andrew Brooks.
Yep, Brooks with a very good lap, but Inestrosa actually going quicker in the first sector, so we're going to have to watch out for him as well after he completes his lap.
Over the top. Right, about to come through the timeline, so to get in front of you there, Steve, through the right-hander. Look at this then from Andrew Brooks. What is his time going to be on his sole flying lap? Over the line he comes here at Sardinia, a 1:23.187, but is it going to be enough? Because Angel Inestrosa is looking very handy. The man who's on the move as well is Adriano Carrazza. We know he can be quick in these X2019s as well. Here comes Inestrosa over the line, and it is pole position provisionally then for the Chilean driver, a 1:23.160, so just 13 thousandths of a second separating the top two at the moment. Randall Hayward is not too far away from the line now. What can the American driver do? He is not faster than the top two as it stands at the moment. Now, Luca Bonelli, of course, another driver who is at the top end of the field. He's ready to come over the timing line then here as well. The Brazilian, what can he do? Fourth quickest. He sits up into P3.
And you saw this now, not usually handy in these cars most of the time anyway, but looking pretty okay right now. Takes P4 away from Randall Hayward. Carrazza looking very quick right now. 1.5 tenths better than Inestrosa through that second sector. Can he carry that speed to the line? He does. Provisional pole then, almost dipping into the 1:22s. And now Robbie Heck as well, about 2 tenths down on that time. Will still be decent enough if he can carry that speed to the start finish. He does. And the time is a 1:23.3. Rubelar, Mr. Hot Lap we like to call him, but this, far from hot it seems, comes across the line only good enough for P5. He will not be happy with that, and that's our first round of drivers all done and dusted. Steve, any surprises there for you at all? It seems that Rubelar a bit off the pace to my liking.
Yeah, I was just watching Rubelar's lap, and he made a very big mistake coming out of turn 7, just smashing into that wall, which you mentioned in which you would have noticed in the 1v1 we did. That wall very, very frightening, and he actually hit that wall and lost probably 2-3 tenths, I reckon. Very easy to do that through that section. It's so far through that it really is just that one line, one opportunity. If you make that mistake, then, well, yeah, you end up losing quite a bit of time. Second group about to lose the pit lane now for the second half of qualifying.
Yep, coming out of the pit lane then here at the Sardinia Road Course, just getting their heat into their tyres. Here is Kevin Pounder. What can he do? Hasn't really lit up the timing screens over the course of this one. The big name, of course, that we're all keeping an eye out for will be Igor Fraga. You can see him there, 13th on the timing sheet at the moment, having not set, of course, a representative lap time. We know how quick he can be behind the wheel of these Red Bull X2019 cars, so I'd be surprised if he wasn't at least inside the top 5. But to be honest, given the way his evening has gone so far, and given the way everybody else's evening has gone so far, and the surprises we've had here in this Americas region, anything could happen. So let's wait and see how it goes.
Exactly. That's the fun bit about this, is it's not over till it's over, or started in this case, I guess. Kevin Pounder, a driver we don't really talk much about, if I'm honest. Reason for that is he gets to these finals and tends to sort of sit in the middle of the pack, or maybe even lower. He doesn't seem to have quite the pace he has online that he does in these events, and we know that pressure's definitely a big part of it. It's a whole different ball game when you know you're being watched by loads of different cameras and loads of shouty people like myself and Tom Brooks and Steve to an extent. We're training Steve to be a shouty person. He'll get there eventually, I think. But Kevin at the moment just setting himself up for a hot lap. And Steve, while you're here, mate, these soft tyres out there, I mean, does it take a lot to get temp into them before this lap, or is it just drive round and they'll heat up?
Yeah, I think often you'll see them swerving about on their warm-up lap, but I think by the time they've done one lap, they should be pretty much up to temperature. And yeah, over the course of these events, I hope it'll become a bit more shouty for you, Jimmy.
I wouldn't have it any other way, mate. Shouty Brown will call you. So Kevin Pounder starting his first flying lap at the moment. Neat and tidy through the first sector, through this left-right complex now. You can see the difference between him and Andrew Brooks here on the onboard there. Brooks just seemed a lot more aggressive through there. Oh, a little bit wide on the exit though.
Can I just say Shouty Brown sounds like a dodgy cocktail or something.
The Shouty Brown.
The Shouty Brown.
You order it once and don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly. Here is Kevin Pounder then, riding on board with him as he comes under the bridge, then over to the right-hand side of the track. It's just amazing with the commitment there, because there's so many blind corners at this Sardinia circuit. You really have to just throw it in and hope that the corner is still there when you get to it. Into third gear, looking over to the left, a little bit wide on the entry there, a bit greedy on the power there for Pounder as well. What is he going to be able to do in this session? Let's take a look at the sector times, just a few minutes, a 28.4 in that middle sector. That is very close to the fastest man of Adriano Corazza, so not a bad lap time here so far then from Kevin Pounder. Let's see whether his final sector is going to be anything to ride home about out of the proper final corner. Now there's just this right-handed kink, but it is pretty much flat to the floor. It is, of course, flat to the floor in these very high downforce cars. Up into seventh gear, touching 180 miles an hour as he comes over the line, and it's only seventh quickest. Lost a bit of time in that second and third sector there for Kevin Pounder. What about Bernie Valverde? Nothing again to write home about here for the Costa Rican. And again, it's not been a particularly memorable evening for him here either. One hopes he can turn it around under race conditions in these X2019s. Coming through into that final corner now then for Valverde. Fabien Portilla goes up to seventh quickest here, the Chilean driver. Not a bad lap time there from him. As here comes Bayliss over the timing line as well. Then again, it's going to be a difficult lap for him. It's been a difficult evening for him. All of him. What about Igor Fraga? 1/10 of a second off. He was quickest in the second sector though. Let's see what his third and final sector is going to be then. Flicking it through into the right-hander. Riding on board here with the 2018 Nations Cup champion. Over to the right-hand side of the circuit. Igor Fraga, what can he do as he comes over the line? Fourth quickest, the best qualifying that we have seen easily from the Brazilians so far in this session, but it's not enough to trouble the front row of the grid as Juan Hernandez, the Guatemalan, also looking very good, into P5. Not a bad performance from him.
He was saying, Mr. Igor Fraga, as McMillan goes into 12th, that it's only a couple of tenths either way, and you find yourself down the field, and look at he's 2 tenths off the pole lap right now. Marpinel, the last driver across the line, does a 1:23.7 to secure 14th position, but it's Corazza, Inestrosa, Brooks, Fraga, your top 4, going into the grand final of the American Regional Final.
So qualifying comes to its conclusion then ahead of the grand final in the American region. Angel Inestrosa, Adriano Corazza, 2 names that we need to, I think, talk about. They, of course, were the names on our lips in Tokyo last year in the Manufacturers Series final. And again, very prominent here this evening, especially in the X2019.
I definitely remember Corazza because he was fighting with a Japanese driver into the last corner, and the roar, the roar when he went for a lunge. And so we know that he's not lacking confidence. Something that maybe Inestrosa will be thinking about.
Yeah, quite. Steve, what do you reckon the tactics are for these drivers then going into this final race? As we've mentioned, of course, before, we've got strategy to consider, but is there anybody who you've seen in the X2019s, maybe in qualifying, that's looking a bit stronger than somebody else out there on track?
Hard to tell at this early stage. Of course, these grand finals are always long races. So if it looks like a driver's having a good start, you know, they might not necessarily end well. So we're going to have to really wait until towards the end of the race before we really see what the results are going to be.
Yeah, qualifying was an interesting bag. Good to see Fraga at the sharp end. Good to see Juan Hernandez as well. New names to it, but getting inside the top 5 on his first attempt in the X2019s. Nice to see some new names up there.
No, definitely. And this car isn't easy. Stephen and I drove them earlier on and made them look a lot harder than they actually are, I think. But they're not easy cars to drive quickly. And then when you factor in things like dirty air, the guy behind you bumping you down the straight, it can get a little bit difficult. But strategy, name of the game, I think, around here. It's going to be the one to watch.
Yeah, if we look back to the EMEA region last week, of course, it was all important with that. We saw the likes of Adam Sassuolo, who qualified really well. He was inside the top 5 in qualifying, but in race conditions, he did a 2-stopper and he was nowhere.
Yeah, so get it wrong when you get shuffled, basically. So, and this is stuff that they would have practiced. You have time to practice this. So I wonder what we're going to see. When we see any more sort of crazy, outlandish strategies, of course, bear in mind this being the grand final of the regional finals, but we have double points. Doesn't really matter the first few races. You had a bad time, don't worry. Good result here can see you through.
Yeah, absolutely then. So we're about ready to get the grand final underway. Just to remind you, the top 4 positions from the overall standings will go through to the grand final. So without further ado, let's head over to the grid, shall we, and get this one underway. Tension is in the air. Any one of our 16 drivers could make it through to the top 4 positions to make it into the grand final, the world final. Here is Adriano Carrazza lines up on pole position ahead of this grand final in the Americas region with Angel Enestrosa alongside him on that front row of the grid. Row number 2 is headed by the Canadian Andrew Brooks, the winner, of course, in the second race. Igor Fraga, the Brazilian driver, lines up alongside him. Row number 3 headed by Juan Hernandez, the Guatemalan driver. Best qualifying, best performance we've seen from him all evening, ahead of Robbie Heck in P number 6. In 7th place, Nicolas Rubilar. Good to see the Chilean driver trying to get a bit of a fight back after a difficult day at the office for him so far, with Luca Bonelli alongside him in P number 8. Fabian Portilla, again, not a bad showing inside the top 10 for the Chilean driver. And 10th place is Kevin Pounder. As we look outside the top 10 then, we can see Danny Solis, not particularly his favourite car this X2019. He's got Nick McMillan for company in an all-American row. Next row of the grid is headed by Randall Haywood there as well. Good to see him on the grid, and a bit further up the order with Mark Pinnell alongside him, the Canadian driver. The final row of the grid is comprised of Bernie Valverde, the Costa Rican, and Tristan Bayliss rounds out our 16 drivers ahead of 25 laps here at the Sardinia road course. The grand final is about to get underway very shortly indeed. A first look at the tyres then, crucially here tonight, Jimmy. You can see the top 3 have gone for the soft tyres. Igor Fraga, though, different strap for him on the mediums.
Yeah, I think he knows he needs to try something a little bit different if he wants to come away with a win in this grand final here in the America's regional final. I don't know, it's going to be a tough one for Igor. He's not really one to go through the field. Usually likes to lead from the front, and that's where Carrazza is right now. I think you give Carrazza a little bit of room. You give him an inch, he'll take a mile. So watch out for the Brazilian at the start of this race.
Adriano Carrazza will lead the field around the final corner then and over the timing line. This is going to be very exciting indeed. Expect fireworks as we come into this regional final, the grand final then, at the Sardinia road course in the Red Bull X 2019. Carrazza on pole, Enestrosa alongside. The grand final then, here at the Sardinia road course in the Americas region is underway. Carrazza will lead the field down towards that first corner. It's a heavy braking zone. It's an opportunity for our drivers to find their way past as they come over the brow of the hill and hit the heavy brakes for the first time. Enestrosa having a little bit of a sneaky look, nearly going 3 wide in the background there with Igor Fraga, Robbie Heck and Nicolas Rubilar for company. Hernandez losing out to Igor Fraga at that first corner as well. So Fraga is now up into 4th position with Hernandez trying to find his way past the Guatemalan driver there, but Carrazza leads the way from Inestrosa from Brooks. So Fraga there is really trying to get his elbows out early doors. He's on the medium tyres, the slower competitive tyres, so I wonder if he's going to be a bit of a sitting duck here on this first lap.
I think Eagles is defending there in the T1. He didn't gain or lose a position, but as you say, to one of those medium tyres, there's not really much he can do apart from sit there and defend, and as long as those behind him squabble, he might be able to keep the place. Put the draft up here. Here's Nico Rubelar. Good start from him at one place from where he started. Looking at Hernandez, who's gone far too deep, putting the brakes almost collect Igor Fraga. Meanwhile, on the outside of us, that was Robbie Heck. He tried to go a long way around at the square right hand, left handed. I didn't quite make that work. And now we go through the back section of a circuit. Again, it's one at a time through here. You get the dirty air, really easy to wash out wide into that grass, into the barrier. And that's where upset happens there. Igor Fraga up into third place. There was a mistake there must have been there for Andrew Brooks, as Fraga on the medium tyres get past Brooks on the soft tyres.
Well, there we go then. Look at it going on further back as they come side by side through the proper final corner of turn 14. Flick it right through turn 15 and over the timing line already to complete the first lap here. So a dream start for Igor Fraga on the medium competitive tyre. Andrew Brooks is going to try and retaliate as soon as he possibly can. Side by side they go into the heavy braking zone of turn 1. Fraga's on the inside, Brooks is on the outside. Brooks tries to get the switchback. He's going to have traction though with that soft competitive tyre. He's on the inside into the left-hander and he's still side by side here with Igor Fraga, who's not giving him an inch. Juan Hernandez ready to try and find his way through as well. Fraga, oh! Contact between Fraga and Brooks sends Fraga off the track and he loses out there, dropping down the order now into the clutches of Benelli and Rubelar there as well. So looked like there was a bit of contact there maybe between Brooks and Fraga.
Igor just didn't do that. He tried to go around the long way round a corner where he's not going to do it. He's got a tyre disadvantage and well, we have a replay, but we'll go back to it when we can so we can get a closer look. Fraga right now having to defend from Rubelar and Benelli in the middle of three wide sandwich there. Rubelar and Fraga goes wide again.
Oh, it's gone from bad to worse.
Disaster.
Yeah, he's off the track. He's now losing out to Nick McMillan, Benelli and Fraga going down the order. So a disaster for lap 2 for the two Brazilian drivers here. Then let's piece together what happened with Igor Fraga. Oh, Benelli off again into the wall, loses it on the curb on the outside. As you can see there, so he's lost out. Now the Brazilians sit in 11th and 12th place. Well, bad luck for the Brazilians then here on lap 2. Not such a problem for Adriano Carrazza, but let's try and have a look then, shall we, at that replay between Fraga and Brooks. So we'll come back to that again. We'll get a chance to look at it because it's Hernandez versus Brooks then, and Hernandez is ahead going into the first corner, so into P3 for the Guatemalan driver. Not a bad start to the race then for him, and now these guys have got a bit of clean air in front of them as well.
Yeah, that's the instance they've opened everything up again, and here's Robbie Heck and Rubelar now getting shoved right onto the grass and turning. It's almost the same as last lap. Rubelar this time in the grass, comes back on the circuit, tags Nick McMillan. This is messy so far. You don't like to see that in these races, but I think everyone's just very much aware that there's only 4 places going for that world final. So they're all just going as fast and as aggressive as they can at the start of the race. I would still really love to see that replay from earlier on, and we can get that up on screen at some point. But meanwhile, McMillan and Pinal now fighting, and Pinal looking to try and maybe send it around the outside of Nick McMillan, of course, ex-GT Academy winner. McMillan very firmly shuts the door there, but there have been a couple of moves that just haven't had to be made so far, and I think that the one with Igor, we'll discuss that, I guess, at length when we get the chance to. It just didn't need to do that.
It's sloppy.
Amateur mistake.
Yeah, sloppy, really, to be honest with you. Oh, look at Robbie Heck there getting onto the power. You can see him sliding his way out. These drivers just trying to get any advantage they can. Meanwhile, no such problems here for Adriano Carrazza. He's pulled out a 1.4 second advantage. Now here's the slipstream here for Andrew Brooks coming down the start-finish straight as we head in towards the first corner. Side by side we go. Brooks is on the inside and he's through ahead of Juan Hernandez back into P3 for the Canadian.
I think we might be able to have the replay shortly of Fraga and Brooks. I know we keep talking about it, but I'm very curious as to what happened. Meanwhile, Benelli still going at it. These guys having a bit of a laugh out there, it seems. 7th and 8th. Guys, you've got 21 laps left yet. Remember that. I don't think they seem to be listening to me, as Benelli almost chops it inside. It's a difficult corner, because you want to almost take the speed round the outside, use the downforce, and then just sort of cut in front of someone for that corner, but it makes the corner a lot tighter taking that line. So things get very aggressive with everyone touches the barrier on exit. They really are on the ragged edge here, and Bayless now fancying a chance with Mark Pinal, using the toe. Left-hander coming up, of course. Pinal's going to go defensive. No, he doesn't. Takes the racing line. Bayless looks up the inside. Will he get it done? No, he doesn't. Blocks him behind Pinal.
Let's not forget, of course, that Tristan Bayliss qualified at the back of the grid here, and he's made his way by the misfortune of others as well, but also through strong driving in the opening few laps into P9, and that is a mistake there for Mark Pinnell, off into the barrier after clipping the wall on the inside, and another position gain for Tristan Bayliss. Pinnell has a sneaky look, maybe a little bit of a sneaky touch there between them, doesn't cost them too much time. Bayliss now into P8, he's now made 8 positions from where he qualified, so I mean, if he finished there, Christmas would have come early. Live points rankings on the right hand side of your screen, 3 drivers will be tied on points if it stays as it is.
Yeah, and of course by wins it will be Karatza. Actually, no, I think it'll be Andrew. No, it's whoever finishes first in the final, isn't it? So it will be Karatza that takes the overall win there from that, even though despite the top 3 would be on equal points. Now Pinnell, we're still watching the Canadian driver, someone who's not afraid also to get his elbows out right now into the toe of Tristan Bayliss. He's come for his middle section now. It's been a very aggressive start so far, Steve. What have you made of it, mate? It's been a little bit of a fight, I think is the term for it. Steve's so excited for the fight that he's forgotten how to speak. It happens to all of us.
Goodness me. Well, Nicolas Rubelar then onto the back of Robbie Heck, trying to send it down the inside. The Chilean driver is now through into 5th position. So it's work to do there for Nicolas Rubelar after contact, of course, he had earlier on with Nick McMillan. McMillan now is down in 7th position. Heck is going to try and retaliate, you would imagine, as soon as possible. But Rubelar being hit with a 1-second penalty for colliding with McMillan is going to bring this battle to a close then, you would imagine, because he'll serve that penalty before too long. Just getting ready to come into that penalty zone there now. And Nicolas Rubelar will have to wave goodbye to Robbie Heck, with Heck getting himself ahead. So here he comes into the penalty zone. Heck is going to go through. And Rubelar is now down into 6th position, and he's going to do a good job, if he can, to try and hold on to the back of Heck and get himself back within that slipstreaming range. Here's Pinnell versus Bayliss then, side by side. Pinnell on the outside, Bayliss on the inside, over the brow of the hill, down to the first corner. The Canadian now into 8th position, ahead of Tristan Bayliss, runs it deep though. Bayliss sends it back up the inside, and he's through once more into 8th place.
Not sure how clever it is to be squabbling over 8 at this point. Maybe it's a better idea just to push forward, especially if you want to qualify. Maybe these guys sort of really resign themselves to not quite getting through to that world final, and instead just, well, let's have a little fight, have a little bit of fun with it. I know that Mike is definitely, Mark is very, we used to call him Mike, but Mark is very much that sort of guy. Now, I think we have a replay of what happened with Rubelar, why he got that contact penalty. So we'll see if we can get that up on our screens now.
Oh, look at Pinnell and Bayliss. That's getting feisty down to the left-hander as well. Cut away from that. So let's see what's going to happen here. So that's Pinnell earlier on with Bayliss. There we go, and they will continue on with their battle on track. So Bayliss then, with Pinnell all over the back of him, into the wall. And there we go, we can see that it's all kicking off between these guys in the lower half of the top 10. Of course, Bayliss is on that medium compound tyre, whereas Pinnell is on the soft compound, so he needed clear air. He needed to have a clean start to this race, and it's not proven to be the case at all. Bayliss actually profiting, as we said, from others' misfortune. Now, Rubelar's the first of the soft tyre runners to come into the pit lane here, from the soft to the hard compound, so one would presume he's going to keep that on for 1 lap or so. Other drivers who are on the mediums, Fraga, Benelli and Bayliss, going from the mediums to the softer compound of tyres here as well. So this is going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
I was somewhat surprised that we didn't see Benelli and Fraga pit in sooner and try something different after that horrendous start for both of them, because what they ideally both need now is just that clear air we speak about, clear air and soft tyres, and just make the speed and make the time on track with nobody around you to hinder you. And it just seems that maybe they were just very set on taking that one strategy. Right now we're on board with Danny Solis, middle of the pack right now, 8th position, chasing Mark Pinnell to come up towards the left-hander once again. Danny up 3 places from his starting position, so a good start from him. Of course, some of that has been people just sort of self-destructing around him, but still up 3 places regardless. He'll be happy with that on lap 7.
Steve, I just wanted to ask you actually as well, given what we've seen over the first few laps in this race, now on lap number 7, who have been the standout performers for you over the course of these few laps? Who's made some good gains where others have been a bit scrappy?
Yes, it's the North American trio, I'd say, Pinnell, McMillan, and who was it? It was Bayliss until we pitted, but those 3 all made really good progress. I think at one point Bayliss had gone up 8 positions, but then you had the likes of Fraga going down 9 positions at this point, Portier going down 6. So it seems to be a bit of a contrast between the North and South American drivers at this point.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks very much for that. And Kellen Stroza, the first of the top three trio to come into the pit lane from the soft to the medium compound of tyres then for Inestrosa. Karatsa continues on, now 1.9 seconds, just stretching that advantage out. Just having a look at the lap times, he's actually a little bit slower than Andrew Brooks in terms of his raw pace, but he's just doing enough to keep himself on the straight and narrow. So we'll keep an eye out and see if that gap begins to increase as those tyres begin to wear. Maybe Karatsa took a bit more out of his tyres in the early few laps, and Brooks has done perhaps a better job of looking after his tyres, and as such will be a little bit quicker towards the end of this stint. One thing to mention, of course, as well, it's not all about tyres. Fuel is an important factor in this race. They will have to put some fuel on board, and of course, depending on when they put that fuel on board, could change the complexion of their strategy, and depending on where they sit. Come back to that in a few moments, because here's Fraga on the recovery against Mark Pinnell, down into the left-hander and through into 11th position.
I mean, 11th. But it's been a terrible race for Igor so far. He sort of tried to give us realistic expectations of what he thought would happen coming into this, but I think even this is below what he thought would have happened. And as much as we praise Igor for his performances, I think we also have to say this one maybe isn't one of the ones he's going to be remembering for a while. As Bonelli and Hayward are side by side, Hayward looking like he's going to come into the pit lane. He does, so Bonelli is then promoted up to 8th position as others pit around him as well. And ideally, again, these guys want to have a little bit of clear air now they're using that soft compounder tire. Just get out there and not worry too much about having to fight or have dirty air. And Inestrosa, okay, he's come out just behind or ahead of sort of Tristan Bayliss, who's looking rather fighty right now. And the last thing Inestrosa needs, really, is to be losing time on that hard compounder tire. So at the moment, as it stands, like it stood before, when the top three were together before pit stops happened, Karatsa, Brooks and Bayliss, and Inestrosa, apologies, who's now made 2 stops, were all tied on points. And that was with Brooks in third. If Brooks finishes second, he will win this grand final and the American Regional Finals overall. So definitely a lot of options and permutations that can come from this race. And Inestrosa now losing more time, but he isn't that hard compounder tyre. And I think he's doing the right thing, Tom. Just letting people pass, not squabbling too much, not losing too much time fighting.
He's only going to be on this for another few corners as well, so there's not much point, as you say. He'll lose more time than he gains, really. There's nothing he can do. He's just sitting duck on that hard compounder tyre, just given the pace difference. So we'd expect Inestrosa to come back into the pit lane, then bolt a set of what I would presume would be mediums on the car, run those for a little bit longer. I wonder whether he's going to try and do a 2 or 3 stop strategy here in this race. We've got 25 laps. We're only on lap number 9, so Benelli's actually going to run these for a little bit longer then. Inestrosa, rather, I should say, is coming back in for another compound of soft. Here comes Rubilar versus Solis, then side by side down the straight. So the Chilean versus the American, and Rubilar, even before the brow of the hill, is into 10th position. So nicely done there for Nicholas Rubilar. Nice clean move into that first corner, up inside the top 10. His next target will be the Canadian of Mark Pinnell.
So mid-race now, well, nearly anyway, 10 laps down, 15 to go right now. Lots of pit stops yet to be made, so we expect the order to shuffle quite a bit before we get to that decisive last lap. Well, Nico Rubilar, be wondering how things could have gone if he'd had a better time round there. He is still lapping fairly quickly, though. I say that on the has the fastest lap last time around with 23.7, living up to his Mr. Hot Lap name, but not quite in the position in the race he would have wanted to be in. Tristan Bayliss, who's been really strong in this race so far. He's gained 10 positions from where he started, and there are some pit stops yet to be taken, I think, but still well up from his qualifying position. And he's always gone well here at Sardinia in all the superstar races. He's always been quick here.
Yeah, seems to be enjoying this Red Bull X 2019 crucially here as well, and he's right up Nick McMillan's trumpet now, trying to find a way through. Let's see whether he is going to be able to find a way past. Of course, McMillan and Heck indeed in front are both on the medium compound of tyre for this middle stint in the race, whereas Tristan Bayliss is on the soft compound of tyre. He's in the slipstream, he's got the advantage, and he pulls alongside Nick McMillan. It's the 2 Americans going side by side and into the braking zone. Bayliss with significantly more grip underneath him is able to outbrake McMillan, and he's through into 5th position. So now his next target will be Robbie Heck on that medium compound of tyre, and this is a great race here from Tristan Bayliss. As we said, qualified at the very back of the order, so if he can finish inside the top 10, maybe even the top 5, especially given how this race has worked out for other competitors, I think he'll be very happy with that result.
Yeah, right now he hasn't got many points, old Tristan, but they've got Hernandez there third as well. He's looking good with the live point standings, which, as if on cue, there they are. And if things ended right now, Brooks would be the American champion Karatsa second, and Benelli seeking a third place. But lots of stops yet to be made, and saying that, Benelli chucks one up the inside of Nick McMillan and goes now in chase of Tristan Bayliss on that soft compounder tyre.
So Benelli, again, once on the recovery drive, the two Brazilians of Benelli and Fraga having had a torrid race here so far. Nick McMillan's been pretty anonymous so far tonight in the Americas region. Good to see him having some action out there on track. Sadly, it's been moving down the order over the last couple of laps or so for McMillan. Of course, he's on a different strategy compared to those around him, so in theory the race should come to him a little bit more towards the end of it. In the background, Igor Fraga on the soft compound tyre is now ready to close up onto the back of Nick McMillan here as well. Meanwhile, just having a look at the gap between Karatsa and Brooks to see Benelli sending one down the inside of Bayliss for 5th position there. Nicely done there for Benelli. A little bit of contact between them into that first corner, but relatively okay there for Benelli. Bayliss is going to try and fight it back into the left-hander. Side by side they go. Oh, big old squeeze there from Benelli. Bayliss had to really keep himself on his toes there, and fortunately they were both able to keep pointing in the right direction. But I was just saying about the gap between Karatsa and Brooks. It's come down now, sitting at 1.9 seconds as it sits there. Over to you, Steve. What have you got for us?
Yeah, I was just looking at that gap between the two of them, and just after looking at the estimated points total, Brooks would win it if they were to finish in the order that they are right now. So maybe Brooks, if he were to catch up, he wouldn't want to fight it too much, because he knows that if he sits in second and finishes there, he would actually still be the champion.
I don't know if these guys are really working that out or not on the fly. If they are, then kudos to them. I can barely drive as it is, let alone work out all the different combinations of points needed to finish what and where. Here's Tristan Bayliss again. Driver's done really well so far. Definitely my driver of the race so far, if not maybe the quickest out there. But great to see him rise through the field. And he's keeping Benelli honest. Benelli has been so fast in races before now, and they're going for a move with the Brazilian driver. He's not taking that line down. Lost the place here on the last lap at T1. Looking to try and get it back now. Slides up the inside. Benelli gets forced a little bit wide there. I think he's got it. What a move by Tristan Bayliss back in front of Benelli.
Inspired performance here from the American. Good to see as well. You can see in the background, Nicholas Rubelar. Oh, Nick McMillan contact into the left-hander. McMillan goes off into the gravel, manages to keep it relatively on the straight and narrow, but I wonder whether the stewards might be having another look at that. Let's not forget, of course, McMillan and Rubelar have history in this race. Rubelar getting a penalty earlier on in this one. Clearly no love lost between the Chilean and the American driver, so let's see whether the stewards deem that a racing incident or whether they start to investigate that contact. Meanwhile, riding on board here with Lucas Benelli down in towards the left-hander, very heavy braking zone, opportune place to try and find your way through as well. Robbie Heck is now coming under pressure from Tristan Bayliss and Lucas Benelli as well, because of course he's on the medium combat tyre on that different strategy. And one would imagine it's only going to be a matter of time before Tristan Bayliss, who really has the red mist inside of him at the moment, as he tries to close up. Look at that gap though presenting itself there for Lucas Benelli. I thought he was going to have a sneaky look at Tristan Bayliss as he ran it a bit hot into that corner, but thinks better of it, just waits another day to try and find his way through.
Yeah, at this point, this is definitely the race on the circuit right now, is Heck, Bayliss and Benelli. And what Bayliss is hoping is he can use the drive to Heck, and he has done there to sort of put himself ahead of Heck and put Heck in between him and Benelli. So that's a really nice move for Bayliss. He's driving so well in this race. I'm really pleasantly surprised by the performance of Tristan Bayliss. Of course, he has been a Manufacturers Series final champion at Tokyo with Porsche. I mean, this X2019, a bit different from the Porsche he drove there, I can tell you that now. But really putting in a great performance for the top three right now in a different league. Karatsa, Brooks and Hernandez right now, way up the road from this little battle for 5th and 6th.
Benelli into the outside wall there. He's really pushing on here, as you can see. There is Igor Fraga, his compatriot, not too far away. Warning being given to Nicholas Rubelar after that contact. Here's Benelli versus Heck then. Side by side they come as they go under the bridge. Benelli on the inside with crap position, and Benelli with 5th place. As a result of that as well, there was a bit of contact, I think, with Igor Fraga going into that left-hander. That's allowed Fraga to go through. Heck is now going to be all out of sorts, flashing the lights in frustration to Igor Fraga. And now he has got Nicholas Rubelar in his mirrors as well. Oh, and Fraga's off into the wall. Oh, contact as well as Heck cuts over on Rubelar there. Just the wrong place, the wrong time for these drivers. Heck on the inside, Fraga on the outside. Rubelar ready to try and take advantage. It's getting messy again at the mid stages of this race. What is going on with these guys in these X2019s? It's all kicking off.
That was all caused again by Igor. Made a mistake, went onto the grass, slowed right down. Heck tried to avoid a slow Fraga. Of course, at the same time, he was being overtaken. So, just, that was another one that's on Igor there. Comes out somehow unscathed in 5th position. Yeah, somehow they all got away with it. I have no idea how, but luck's definitely on their side right now.
Pit stop's taking place. Rublar ducking into the pit lane there, says, I've had enough of all of that. I'm coming in. And he comes into the pit lane. Meanwhile, look at Andrew Brooks. That gap now sitting at under a second between himself and Adriano Carrazza. So he is definitely going to be within slipstreaming range as he comes through into that final sector. And this could be set to change the complexion of the race. And if so, I mean, what a race it has been for Andrew Brooks here so far. What a great weekend of racing. He's been incredibly consistent, as has Adriano Carrazza, it has to be said here as well. But let's see what he is going to be able to do as he comes through into that final corner. Is he going to find his way past? And let's see what difference is going on with the strategies here as well. We'll bring you a replay of that incident on the last lap in a few moments' time. Let's see whether Brooks, though, is going to close up onto the back of Carrazza. They're both coming into the pit lane, so that's null and void as they put a bit of fuel on board. Now, talk us through this here, Jimmy.
Yeah, Fraga goes wide, gets the wrong, Heck follows him and has to avoid a very slow Fraga. Tries to come back on the inside to avoid running to the back of Igor. And Rublar, who was just minding his own business, got caught up in all of it. So, yeah, luckily they got away with it. Fraga now pitting in, Heck managing to stay out, and for now also opting to pit in right now. Interestingly, a bit of a divergence in strategy. Carrazza has chosen to go onto the hard compounder tyre. Meanwhile, Brooks has taken the fuel. He's taken the long fuel stop now. This will be his long stop. Of course, fuel is a big part of this race. When you pit, how much you pit in, how much you manage to save. And bear in mind that there are some guys who've been sort of just chilling out and sitting behind others. Doing that is a great way of making sure that your pit stop is faster, than those around you. Less time stopped equals more time on track equals faster race time.
The crucial thing for Brooks here as well is he's come out in a bit of clear air. He's got 4.2 seconds between himself and Kevin Pounder, so he can just run a little bit of a clean race here and just keep himself on the sort of straight and narrow more than anything. Just run his own race for a little bit of time, not get caught in the dirty air or the traffic or another squabbling battle and not lose too much time. So that's a perfect situation here for Andrew Brooks, whereas Adriano Carrazza, he's got, again, clear air in front of him because he's by default in the front of the race for having not taken fuel on board. But of course, he's going to have to take that fuel on board later on in this one. So let's see how this is going to work out between these two drivers.
I'm just looking at the tyres that Carrazza's taken so far. I mean, it's going to have to be either he'll come in for a medium set. Now he does, and this will probably go to the end. Well, he's got to take all his fuel if he's going to the end, so that'll be quite a long stop for him. For Hernandez doing the same thing, as is Heck. So the question is now, where is Inestrosa and where is Andrew Brooks? Inestrosa goes through into the lead for now. He has made all his stops so far, I think, unless he's not taking fuel at this point. So we'll double check that once we know 100%, because I don't think Inestrosa's that far ahead. I think he owes some fuel. He must owe some fuel. So I think we're going to be seeing another stop from Angel Inestrosa at the front here. But that means Hernandez comes out in second place. We also have, let me have a look, Brooks is fourth. So Brooks, I think, is the one that's benefited most here. He's come out ahead of Carrazza, who he was previously behind. So I think maybe Brooks has played a bit of a masterstroke here.
And he's got Solis and Hernandez in front of him, who are on the hard combat of tyres, so it should be pretty easy pickings here for Andrew Brooks if he can set the move up quite nicely. He's going to have more grip underneath him, so we ride on board here with Andrew Brooks. And how long is it going to be? It's a matter surely of when, not if. You can see Solis there wiggling, trying to get some heat into those tyres on his outlap here, and just trying to defer the tactics there of Andrew Brooks coming down into the left-hander. Side by side we go. Brooks on the inside, Solis on the outside. Brooks gets himself ahead. I saw you waggling your finger there, Jimmy. You're not happy with the tactics there of Danny?
No, these guys are just good friends. They're good mates. Danny Solis knows he's not in it. He knows that his good friend Andrew Brooks has a chance of winning, so he just lets him by. This is a perk of having your teammate in the race, I guess. And on our camera, he had a little bit of a grin on his face as he let Brooks by. And I tell you what, Brooks does not have a grin on his face right now. He's looking like he is giving it 110%. Angel Inestrosa throws it in there for his last stop. He does need fuel. So does Hernandez. So really, this is one of those races again where we have to wait right to the end to understand what's going on.
Brooks takes the lead away, though, of the race, crucially in the interim there, so he was able to get himself ahead.
He does owe hard tyres. He owes that one more stop there. Carrazza doesn't owe any more sets of tyres, and I think he's had. I think he owes fuel though.
at this point. So actually no, I tell a lie. It is just a tyre stop now between the two. So 5 seconds between Karatsa and Brooks. Now Brooks needs to make this stint count if he wants to win this race. He doesn't need to win this race. He can come second and still win the final overall, but you try telling a racing driver that. He ain't going to win, just come second. Never works.
One thing I've really been impressed with here with Andrew Brooks is just how calm he's been. We've seen him getting a little bit emotional in these World Tour events, mainly because, in fairness to him, the events haven't gone his way. He's been nerfed off, or he's just had bad luck in the World Final races, or in the events World Tour races that we've had. And as such, he's just kept his calm, kept his nerve. He's had good fortune as well. And he is looking very, very much in control of this one as it stands. But of course, Adriano Karatsa was also on a similar strategy to him there as well. They both know another set of tyres. Well, they don't know another set of tyres. Karatsa has run all 3 compounds, but he will presumably come into the pits, one would imagine, if he owes a bit of fuel.
Yeah, I reckon he'll probably just try and go as long as he can before going onto this hard compound tyres, because he has to go onto the hard compound. So I guess he's probably put fuel in right into the last lap, maybe even not needing any more fuel. Maybe he's good to the end now and just take that last set of tyres for that. Steve, mate, I mean, you've been watching this strategy probably a lot closer than we have, while we're trying to watch the rest of the race. What do you think we can expect then?
Yeah, I think Andrew Brooks, he just needs to open up a gap. I calculated a lap time, a pit stop time earlier. It seemed you lose about 8 seconds. I think he needs to gain 3 more seconds between now and lap 24 to stand a chance of winning this one.
I mean, do you think it's possible at this rate?
I think it's going to be really difficult. He had a 2-second gap to Karatsa, so he's essentially got to gain that back on this stint, and he does have 1 lap older tyres. So if he's going to do it, it's going to be a very, very, very committed drive.
Well, we know that Brooks, as well as Karatsa, both incredibly talented drivers. One from Canada, one from Brazil. And isn't it great a race can be this close between people living so far apart, such as the fantastic thing of online racing and Gran Turismo sport. Here's Mark Patel, Randall Haywood, squabbling right now over 8th position. Not been Randall's best series, I think. He's not been terrible, but he's just not quite been at the sharp end now. Same with Mark as well. They're both just sort of being mid-runners up to this point, but I'm sure they're still having a massive amount of fun up there as Randall gets very close to the back of the Canadian through there. Very likely he'll use the draft now to get by into T1.
So on board then with Randall Haywood as he flicks it through that right-handed king. You can see him closing up. Fennell tries to move his car to the middle of the road, leaves a bit of room there for Haywood on the outside. Side by side they come over the start-finish line at the start of lap number 20. Haywood's got the inside line. Pennell's going to try and brake a bit later. Doesn't have the grip underneath him on that medium compound tyre to do so. Haywood through into 8th position. So nice driving there from Randall Haywood. Bit of clear air in front of him will not be an unwelcome sight at all in this race. But we're now coming down into crunch time then. So 5 laps left, I should say. 5.5 seconds separating Brooks and Karatsa at the front of the field. There is Andrew Brooks. A brilliant race, a brilliant evening it has been for him here so far. As Jimmy alluded to earlier on, he doesn't need to win this race to take top honours here tonight. But again, he's a racing driver. He would love to be able to do that. And he has just been on absolutely top form. We heard from him a few moments ago before the start of this race, and he was absolutely pumped up. And I am sure he is going to be in a very similar position there now. The good thing is he's not under any immediate pressure from behind, so he can just run his own race for just a short while, not worry about too much pressure, just set some good consistent lap times and keep his head down.
You want to keep an eye on Angel and Astroja as well. He's a little bit behind at the moment. 3 seconds off the back of Karatsa. 5 seconds off the back of Karatsa as it stands. But he is in the soft compounder tyre, and he doesn't have to stop again at the moment. Brooks does have to stop again. So in Astroja, still very much in the top 3 of this race. Robbie Heck does have a pit stop. There is Karatsa right now. Is he really just trying to use as much of the track as possible? That's about as an important thing as you can do in this car. These high downforce cars, you can really chuck them around, really throw them at the curbs, really tip them into the corners. And the more track you use, the shallower the angle, the wider the angle, the opposite way around, and the more speed you can carry through. Someone, though, who has had, by his standards, a torrid race is Igor Fraga, down in 10th position. This is an absolute something to really forget for Igor. So many mistakes, very unlike him. But I think really that lack of practice and that rust you mentioned really affecting him here in the regional finals.
Well, we can see him on screen at the moment as well from our commentary position, and he's got a frown as wide as a Sao Paulo circuit. Sends it down the inside of Marc Pinel, down for 9th position there. Up the inside he goes and through ahead of the Canadian driver. But he is just looking very serious, very glum actually after this one. Over to you, Steve. What do you have for us?
Just a few moments ago, it's really important to keep an eye on Inestrosa. He's 10.3 seconds off of Brooks at the moment, and we're saying maybe about 8 seconds lost in the pit in the pit lane. So if Inestrosa does manage to get within that 8 seconds before Brooks goes for his stop, then that could be a change of position, and that is very important for deciding the champion today.
Well, one thing to mention as well, of course, he's made 4 stops. He's on fresh, soft tyres, so he is going to be just significantly faster than anybody else around him at this point in the race.
If Brooks needs to finish second, basically, he needs to. If Karatza wins, Brooks needs to finish second, and if Inestrosa's charging on the soft compounder tyre, that might not happen. Here he is, Inestrosa, the Chilean driver. Again, another driver who has just been on the up and up and up, and just doing a fantastic job at every event we've seen him in. And here, of course, now in a real shout of upsetting Brooks's day. Here's Nico Rubelar, someone who, unfortunately, like Igor, has not had a good time out there. Started off strong, but just went all downhill.
Yeah, it's been a scrappy race for Nico Rubelar, especially given, as you said, won the first race, was in good contention in that second race there for a time as well. But since then, it's just gone downhill, and he goes down the inside of Kevin Pounder as well. And through into 10th position, running side by side he goes. No quarter given between these two drivers as they run wheel to wheel. Coming up the hill, Pounder on the inside, Rubelar on the outside. They're going to flick it left though. Rubelar gets trap position. He gets ahead, bit of dust being kicked up on the outside there. Those guys getting aggressive in the latter stages here of this race. Of course, different tyre compounds underneath them to consider there as well. And a slide out of that corner is not going to help Nico Rubelar and his charge to try and stay ahead of Kevin Pounder here.
We are back on the draft again. And the thing is, Rubelar, now that mistake plus the toe, just is being caught up. He needs to score some points. Otherwise, that's all, my word. Pounder there came across right at the last second as Rubelar tried to squeeze by and almost put them both in the grass. And at the speeds they were going, that would have been a monumental accident. Luckily, they both came out of it okay. But these guys are really fighting. And as you can see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, if the race ended now, Andrew Brooks would be champ. Karatza second, Inestrosa third, and Bonelli fourth. A reminder, top 4 drivers go through to the world final. Randall Haywood, if he gets past Bonelli, that might be him going through to the world final. So definitely all to play for that last slot.
Just wanted to say to Nico Rubelar's credit, what a great move around the outside of Kevin Pounder in that first sector. He's been scrappy at that left-hander, had a couple of run-ins with Nick McMillan through there, but made it stick going through that corner. It was brilliant, but Kevin Pounder retaliates down the hairpin into the left-hander. He goes up the inside. Pounder and Rubelar side by side on corner exit, and once again it's a repeat. It's like deja vu this. They were doing exactly the same thing last time around, with the concentration on the Chilean's face is evident to see as he flicks it through that left-hander. A warning given to Nick McMillan for a collision with another car. That'll be Tristan Bayliss, who was oh so impressive in the early stages of this one. Sadly has now slipped down into 14th position in the closing stages there of this race. But now Nicolas Rubelar is just a little bit further ahead of Kevin Pounder, but let's see whether the slipstream is going to be enough for Pounder to catch up. Of course, Pounder's not too far adrift of Marc Pinel there either. Over to you, Steve, about you got something about Bonelli and Haywood, I understand.
Yes, really close fight between the two of them. They are less than 3 seconds apart on the road. Maybe it's too late for Haywood. He needs to overtake Bonelli to get into that crucial 4th spot to qualify for the world final. But at this point, I think he's a little bit too far back.
Seems that Rubelar right now, I'm just checking on his driver cam, he's so frustrated. He's had a fight with Kevin Pounder for the last few laps, and it's really cost him. He needs every place he can get, including this one from Marc Pinel. He needs to be by, needs to be going off the road, and after Igor Fraga to try and get as many points as he can. He's still within contention. He just needs to score a few more points to push him up into that top 4, but it's maybe a little too late now. And I think being held up by Kevin Pounder all that time has destroyed any chance. Now, here we are, Andrew Brooks on the last lap of the race, comes in to fit the hard compounder tyre. Where will he come out? Inestrosa, will he be ahead? Coming out to pit exit, there is Karatza, where's Inestrosa? There he goes! Inestrosa goes up into 2nd place, Andrew Brooks down to 3rd, and that means it'll be Corazza who ends up winning the regional finals overall. Brooks in that hard combat tyre, there is no chance he'd be able to come back at Inestrosa on that fresh soft tyre, and that changes everything.
Just to remind you, the top 4 drivers make it through from the Americas final into our world final. Here's Juan Hernandez versus Lucas Bonelli then through the left-hander. This is a great scrap that's going on for position. Those two separated by just 0.4 of a second. Or they were just a few moments ago. That gap is coming down as they come into the slipstream part of this lap, but an absolute blinder of a strategy. And as you said there, they'd be tied on points, actually, the top 3 drivers, but it would go down to the result of this grand final with Corazza taking the spoils here, Jimmy.
Yeah, that's so tight. Top 3 drivers on 38 points. Bonelli looking to try and make up a few more points at the end of the race on Hernandez. Hernandez has driven so well in this race. 4th place in his first ever regional final. It's going to be a bit of a toe down to the line through the fast left hand. Now, I don't think there's going to be room for Bonelli now as we come into the last corner.
So absolutely brilliant then from these drivers. Fantastic end to the race. Here comes Bonelli sending it down the inside. Does he get through? Hernandez gets the switch back then as they come out on the corner exit, but over the timing line is about to come the race winner. Adriano Corazza wins the Americas regional final. A brilliant race from him. He takes the flag in the grand final as well at the Sardinia road course. Angel Inestrosa comes home second and Andrew Brooks in 3rd position. So the top 3 results reflect the top 3 results in the regional final. And Luca Bonelli takes 4th place on the line by 0.004 of a second ahead of Juan Hernandez in P5. Robbie Heck comes home 6th ahead of Randall Hayward. Igor Fraga salvaging P8 after a dismal race ahead of Rubilar and Pounder, who complete the top 10. Valverde, Portilla, Pinel, Bayliss, McMillan and Danny Solis complete our 16 runners. But what can you say about this man here? Adriano Corazza, having driven absolutely perfectly in that race, just goes to show that you can never count him out.
Yeah, what a result that was there for Luca Bonelli. Just about getting Hernandez on the line there up to 4th place and just cementing his place in the world final.
Well, what an absolutely fantastic regional final in the Americas. Adriano Corazza, what can you say about him? I mean, quiet race by comparison to some people out there, really, compared to his other Brazilian drivers, but he just pulled it out the bag when he needed to, didn't he?
It doesn't feel like a Corazza win unless there's been some sort of crazy dive at some point by him, but yeah, pulled it off masterfully for the win there. And I think it gave us the tightest ever finish I've ever seen to a championship or a little mini-series here. It's mad.
3 drivers tied on points as well at the top of the order. So does that mean we can crown a regional champion? I'm not sure.
How big's the crown?
Oh, well, exactly. Yeah, you needed to spread over 3 people over a social distance as well. What a nightmare. Anyway, let's let Julia untangle that for her. I think she's talking to Adriano Corazza, who finished at the top of the standings in the Americas regional final.
Oh, how are you doing? Yeah, you look happy. Do you feel happy?
Yes, of course.
It's really funny because when we watch you guys race, you are very serious. And as soon as we talk to you afterwards, it's like a wave of relief and happiness, generally speaking. Do you feel relieved? Are you happy with your performance today?
Oh, yeah, yes. Especially in the last race. I did a very good hot lap and qualify. And the race is just they keep the pace. And I think my strategy is different. So the race is very good for me. I'm very happy with my performance.
Have we even given you time to let it sink in that you're the Americas champion? I mean, has that kind of even settled in yet? It's only been about a minute.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I am champion of America.
Yes, yes, you're the champion.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I would have said it earlier if I thought you didn't know. Are you
I don't know because
Well, huge congratulations from all of us here. You performed so well and you are so deserving. And yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Brilliant. I didn't realise you didn't know. There we go. I would have said it earlier.
So Adriano Corazza takes the spoils in the race and indeed in the championship as well, ahead of Angel Inestrosa and Andrew Brooks. Those three drivers, as we know, tied on points in the standings as well. Lucas Finelli, the Brazilian driver, the second best performing Brazilian in P4, ahead of Juan Hernandez. Then Robbie Heck, Randall Hayward, Igor Fraga salvaging P8 at the end of that one. Nicolas Rubelar had the fastest lap in that race. Sadly, didn't have a particularly strong result down in P9 ahead of Kevin Pounder. Benny Valverde, Fabian Portilla, Mark Pinell, Tristan Bayliss, Nick McMillan, Danny Solis complete our 16 drivers.
Tell you what, isn't that peak Andrew Brooks, right? That he that he got 38 points and came third.
I know.
I just think it's a little bit mad that our top 4 positions were basically how the points finished. I don't think we've ever had the top 3 tied on points. I think that's definitely a first for us. So just to reiterate, Adriano Corazza, Angel Inestrosa and Andrew Brooks all finish on 38 points, but it's all based on where you finish in the grand final. Corazza won, so he wins, Inestrosa second, so he's second, and Brooks third, so he's third.
And Luca Bonelli finished in 4th position, and he's in 4th in the standings. I mean, you couldn't script it, could you?
I think he was just happy, oh, I'm through as well. Nice. He doesn't care about his top 3, he's just happy that he's through. But that does mean that Nico Rubelar, of course, our winner in race 1, didn't quite do enough in race 2 of the grand final. He ends up actually quite a bit off, 8 points off that 4th place in the end. So he'll be frustrated with that, especially how strong he was at the start.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, let's go over, I should say, to Julia, who is with Angel Inestrosa, who finished 2nd in the Americas region.
Hi. How are you doing? How does it feel to come in? Well, I mean, it is 2nd, but how frustrating. It's sort of the same, but 2nd. How do you feel?
Well, actually quite nice, because the objective, the goal was to get qualified to World Final. So, I feel great actually.
Now that you've had 2 minutes to think about your performance, how do you think, sort of looking back, how you've done?
Well, actually, on the first race, I don't think I did a good qualifying. I could have done a better lap, but in the race I tried to attack Defson at Brooks and tried to overtake him. I couldn't at the end, but anyway, overall it was a good performance.
And how's this kind of compared to, coming to the real life World Tour events, doing this online way? Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, absolutely. You feel comfortable because you're in your house, in your own rig, so it's more comfortable, of course. But I miss the feeling about the crowd when you're on a world tour, but it's still pretty nice.
Oh, well, okay. Well, we'll pass the note forward. We'll get some, fake crowd noise if we do this again moving forward. Racing! We love you! But congratulations. Yeah, I'll put a note in. I'll send an email. Don't worry. Well done. And we'll see you very soon. Over to you, Tom and Jimmy.
Angel's just been a driver that's been getting better and better and better. I think that at this point that it's only going to go up from here. P2 here. Really, same as everybody else. It was his to win.
Let's have a look at some key moments from tonight then, shall we, over the course of the Americas regional finals here. This one all got a bit messy on the opening lap here. You can see from the outside there was Robbie Heck, who got bumped around like some Skittles.
He was Finelli a bit later on, and again, making the mistake that so many did, just putting it a little bit wide out of the fast left-hander, picking up the grass, very slippy out there, and at that point, he just sort of a passenger. Here's Inestrosa and Bayliss. Bayliss had a really great start, but then just sort of disappeared as the race went on. I think maybe taking the wrong strategy, spending 3 laps on that hard compound tyre, really didn't go well for him. Bonelli again making his way back through the field on an eventual way to 4th position.
Yeah, nicely done there for him. Here's Nicolas Rubelar and Nick McMillan going door handle to door handle again. As I mentioned in commentary, no love lost, I'm sure, between those two drivers because they've had the magnets on to each other, they've been attracted so much. Here's Andrew Brooks versus Danny Solis, and Brooks putting in some fantastic performance over the course of this one. There was Solis, that little wiggle there between them going on. This is the final lap. That's Andrew Brooks coming out into 3rd position with Corazza and Inestrosa in front. Here was Bonelli versus the Guatemalan Juan Hernandez. to the line as well, and this went on right to the checkered flag. We saw just the back end of it as they came to the line. There was Bonelli sending it down the inside. Hernandez said, thank you very much, and got it back through as Bonelli ran a bit deep into that corner, and then they had a drag race to the line with Carrazza taking the spoils ahead of Inestrosa, third place going the way of Andrew Brooks, and Bonelli taking fourth place in the race, and crucially, fourth place in the standings as well. Look at how close that was. Unbelievable. 0.004 of a second separating the Brazilian and the Guatemalan. I just love to see it.
How cheeky is that? The cheekiest thing I've ever seen. Last thing, see you later, mate. I love that. Love it.
Just fantastic, isn't it? So, yeah, I mean, as I said, what a great evening's worth of racing we've had in the Americas region. So we now know the 8 finalists who are going to be going through in the EMEA region. We now know the 4 finalists that are going through in the Americas region. We've only got Asia and Oceania to decide, and crucially, there's only 3 places up for grabs there.
So basically, this turned up to 11 then. So.
Look forward to that. I mean, this is the thing they're trying to win. So, I mean, we could just take this home with us if we want. I mean,
I've been told that if I touch this, a man will come to my house and do horrible things to me. So this is looking at it for now. Very nice and pretty, and room for more names.
So we know the standings, of course, after the Americas region, but the World Tour points are what we need to know because we've had 2 regions now. We've had EMEA and we've had Americas. And as you can see, Coque Lopez and Adriano Carrazza, top in their respective regions, sit at the top of the order. Then you can see Jose Serrano, Angel Inestrosa in second and in third and fourth place, respectively, overall. And then it's very close. Of course, it goes 1 point for each of the regions further down to Jonathan Wong right at the bottom there, Jimmy.
You think, of course, as well, the guys that won all the way back in Sydney, that was, of course, Takuma Miyazono. He's already got 3 points. He's not done anything yet. And he's still got, of course, his regional finals yet to come. So if he wins that, he could put himself at the top of the World Tour points before we even get there.
Still got one more award to do, though, of course, the Michelin Driver of the Day. So let's head over to Steve, shall we? Find out who that is.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one because I think lots of drivers actually drove really well, and especially in that final. Carrazza, Inestrosa and Brooks all doing a really good job. But it was funny that Brooks actually got a winning amount of points but still finished third. But if there's any consolation to him, I'm going to give him the Michelin Driver of the Day because I think he still drove really well, especially even in that last race, despite finishing third.
Well, that's it. 2 of our regional finals are down. There is only 1 left. Only 3 spots still up for grabs to go to that grand final. And we are bound to see some exciting action, of course, because it will be the grudge match comeback with Miyazono and Lukovsky. Guys, what do you think on that one?
I reckon Cody's looking for some revenge, I think, after being shown up in front of his home audience.
I reckon fill the insurance forms out now to save on paperwork later.
Yeah, I'm going to bring some throat lozenges because that's basically what happened last time was I was shouting so loudly I couldn't speak afterwards. So that is the kind of action that's going to be happening next week. So don't go anywhere. We will see you then. From me, Julia Hardy, and from my wonderful team, Jimmy Broadbent and Tom Burks. We'll see you next time. Bye.